Chapter 1049. Cursing since you left last time, 3 major events have happened in Tianqian City. After sorting out his thoughts, Hu Yang arrived slowly. It turned out that in just a few days, many things had happened in Tianqian City. Among them, 3 things caught Ning Yu's attention. First, the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion's great elder, Shen Tu Hao, had forcefully entered the Ning family and trapped the Ning family's higher-ups. Second, a group of people from the Lanqing nation had arrived. The martial artist leading them was extremely powerful, at least a 7th-grade human supreme. Among the group from the Lanqing nation, there were 2 extremely special martial artists. The Lanqing nation's Feng family's young master, Feng Wen, and the Lanqing nation's first prince. The reason why they were considered special was because their cultivations were all 1st-grade human supreme martial artist. The Lanqing nation's power was comparable to the great Xia nations. For so many years, the great Xia kingdom rarely produced a supreme being. But the Lanqing nation suddenly had 2 young 1st-grade human supreme. How could Ning Yu not be shocked? As for the third matter, it was also the strangest thing to Ning Yu. Recently, there had been people disappearing in Tianqian City. Among these missing martial artists, there were true martial realm and peak manifestation realm. A few hours ago, a 4th-grade human supreme that Shen Tu Hao had brought with him had also disappeared for no reason. Because of this, Shen Tu Hao flew into a rage and ordered to find the culprit at all costs. At the same time, Shen Tu Hao also went to look for him personally. This was also the reason why Shen Tu Hao did not return in time when number 1 to 9 were killed. Because Shen Tu Hao had already found the location of the 4th-grade human supreme. No matter what, he had to find out. I got it. You can leave first. Waving his hand, Ning Yu gestured for Hu Yang to leave first. These 3 matters were more troublesome for Ning Yu. But the most troublesome was still Shen Tu Hao. I don't know when the Sword of Evil will return. If he doesn't, I won't be able to go to the Ning family. As he did not know that Shen Tu Hao was no longer in the Ning family, Ning Yu did not dare to act rashly. He could only wait for the Sword of Evil to return before he dared to go over. Earthshaker, 8-legged centipede, go and stand guard outside. Don't let anyone in without my permission. After a moment of silence, Ning Yu said, Understood. The 8-legged centipede and the Earthshaker did not linger. In a flash, they left the room. Whoosh. After the 8-legged centipede and the others left, Ning Yu commanded his storage ring to shoot forth a massive pillar of light. His father in this life, Ning Hai, emerged from his storage ring in a daze. Your father's condition seems very serious. The Dark Emperor circled around Ning Hai a few times before saying, There seems to be a protective barrier on his body. My perception can't enter his body at all. That's right. I can't penetrate his body with my perception either. Ning Yu took a deep breath and said, Back then, your father was with the adamantine goat. It should know how to break the protective barrier. The Dark Emperor had a vexed expression. If he had known this would happen, he would have warned Ning Yu and forced him to tell him how to save his father. It's useless. If I'm not wrong, the protective barrier on my father should be the work of the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Ning Yu said solemnly, The Supreme 9 Purities Temple? The Dark Emperor raised his brows. You mean, we have to go to the Supreme 9 Purities Temple? Not now. My father is only sealed. He won't be in danger for the time being. Our top priority now is to resolve the crisis of the Ning family first, then go to the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Ning Yu shook his head. Apart from my father, there's also Lu Wei. Anyway, it's a mess now. Power. I need to improve my power urgently. At this moment, Ning Yu really wanted to improve his power. However, Ning Yu knew that haste makes waste. He had already improved his cultivation from the manifestation realm to the 1st-grade human supreme realm in a short period of time. It would be extremely difficult for him to improve his cultivation to the 2nd-grade human supreme realm. For the current Ning Yu, improving his cultivation was not the only way to improve his power. For example, he could cultivate the universe palm, cultivate his soul power, control the law of space, the sapling. That's right. At this thought, Ning Yu's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly communicated with the sapling. Ever since it devoured a lot of energy in the Earth-level Great Hall, the sapling had fallen into a deep sleep. No matter how Ningyu shouted, the sapling did not respond. Now that so much time had passed, according to Ningyu's guess, the sapling should have woken up by now. Buzz. As expected, the moment Ningyu communicated with the sapling, it sprang out of his storage ring. At this moment, the sapling had grown even bigger. The roots of the sapling were firmly locked onto the branch of the world tree. Kai. After the sapling appeared, it started its frenzied devouring mode. The energy in the air was continuously devoured by the sapling. Shenyang pill. Looking at the fist-sized pill that appeared on the sapling, Ningyu was shocked. In the past, most of the holy energy that the sapling had devoured was for his own use. Could it be that the sun rose from the west? Gulp. Staring at the Shenyang pill on the sapling, the Dark Emperor swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his face burning with passion. Ningyu, this Shenyang pill is so huge. If you hand it to me, I can raise my cultivation to the pinnacle of grade 1 or even grade 2 within 3 days. The Dark Emperor said hurriedly. Go, scram to the side. You want to raise to grade 2 with a single Shenyang pill? Are Shenyang pills that powerful? Why don't I know about it? Ningyu waved his hand. Hehe, 1 is impossible. If I had 3 Shenyang pills, raising to grade 2 would be as easy as drinking water. The Dark Emperor snickered. Given the nature of the sapling, it's already a blessing in disguise for it to produce a single Shenyang pill. 3. Are you sure you're not joking with me? Ningyu pursed his lips in disbelief. Ningyu understood the sapling's nature well. Unless it devoured too much energy from the void, there was no way it would have enough energy to produce Shenyang pills. There were only 2 possibilities for the sapling to produce Shenyang pills. First, it had devoured too much energy that it couldn't digest. Second, it had reached a bottleneck. No matter how much energy it devoured, it wouldn't be able to grow. Could it be that the sapling had reached a bottleneck? Shifting his gaze to the sapling, Ningyu wanted to see if it could produce 2 Shenyang pills. Within the room, the sapling continued to devour the energy in the void. Ningyu and the Dark Emperor stared fixedly at the sapling, at the Shenyang pill that was hanging on it. 10 minutes later. Wong. The first Shenyang pill was formed and fell to the ground. Swish. Before the Shenyang pill even landed on the ground, the Dark Emperor opened his mouth wide and swallowed the Shenyang pill whole. F.C.K. Chapter 1050. Dark Emperor Ascension Catcher. The Dark Emperor could even devour a grade 1 human supreme instantly, let alone a Shenyang pill the size of a fist. Almost instantly, the Dark Emperor chewed up the Shenyang pill and swallowed it whole. Burp. After swallowing the Shenyang pill, the Dark Emperor burped out in satisfaction. F***CK The Dark Abyss Crystal. Seeing the Dark Emperor's infuriating look, Ningyu had the urge to beat him up. You swallowed such a huge Shenyang pill without even batting an eyelid. A Shenyang pill that was the size of a fist contained a massive amount of Saint Qi. Even a heaven-devouring hound would not be able to handle it. Sure enough, Ningyu's guess was right. Not long after, the Dark Emperor was rolling around on the ground, looking very miserable. How dare you devour as you please? Ningyu glared at the Dark Emperor in annoyance. He then deployed his senses and tried his best to help the Dark Emperor refine the Shenyang pill within his body. Although the Dark Emperor was gluttonous, Ningyu could not ignore him. If Ningyu did not help the Dark Emperor cultivate the Shenyang pills, it was not hard to imagine that the Dark Emperor would definitely implode after a period of time. Kai. As Ningyu was working hard to help the Dark Emperor refine the Shenyang pill within his body, a second Shenyang pill was silently forming on the sapling. Furthermore, it was growing at a shocking rate. At this rate, the second Shenyang pill would be formed in less than 4 hours. Drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. After half an hour of full-force refinement, the amount of Shenyang pills in the Dark Emperor's body had already been reduced by half. At this moment, the Dark Emperor returned to normal. Who knows, the Dark Emperor might really be able to advance to the second-grade human sovereign realm after refining this Shenyang pill completely. Feeling the terrifying aura that the Dark Emperor was emitting, Ningyu muttered. The strength of the sky-devouring hound would increase explosively as its cultivation increased. Back then, the Phantom Mouse, a peak 7th grade human sovereign, had easily defeated Venerable Wind, a peak 7th grade human sovereign. According to Ningyu's conjecture, once the Dark Emperor advanced to 2nd grade sovereign, he would even be able to easily kill a 5th grade sovereign. Hong Fiend. Ningyu's attention did not stay on the Dark Emperor for too long. His mind moved, and he shouted in a low voice. Whoosh! As Ningyu growled, the Red Fiend flew out of the Red Fiend sword. If I give you the Red Demon Sword, what level of human supreme can you deal with? Ningyu went straight to the point. 2nd class, or 3rd class. After pondering for a moment, the Red Demon replied. The Red Fiend was extremely weak, so weak that it was terrifying. Without the Red Fiend sword, the Red Fiends could not even defeat a martial artist at the peak of the creation realm. With the help of the Red Demon sword, Hong Mo might not be able to defeat a 2nd grade supreme martial artist, but he wouldn't lose either. Your strength is still too weak. If I give you a Shengyang pill, to what level can you raise your strength to? The Red Fiend's strength had always been a knot in Ningyu's heart. He himself had advanced to a 1st grade human sovereign, and the Dark Emperor was also a 1st grade human sovereign. There was even a high chance that he could advance to a 2nd grade human sovereign. Among the 3 brothers, the Red Fiend's cultivation was the weakest. He wasn't even at the peak of the creation realm. Raising the Red Fiend's strength was something that Ningyu had to do at the current stage. With the Shengyang pill, I can raise my cultivation to the half-step sovereign realm. The Red Fiend said solemnly. The half-step sovereign realm is too weak. Ningyu said with a slight frown. As their enemies grew stronger, Ningyu knew that the 3 brothers had to keep raising their cultivation. Otherwise, they would only end up dead. I'm the spiritual body of the Red Fiend sword. As long as the Red Fiend sword can raise another level, my strength will rise as well. The Red Fiend knew what Ningyu was worried about. He waved it off and said, furthermore, our enemies will be very strong in the future. It'll be hard for me to face them alone. Don't belittle yourself. Ningyu said in a deep voice. Based on my estimations, the Red Fiend sword should be one of the top Emperor-grade flying swords. Given our strength, raising the Red Fiend sword by another level will be harder than ascending to the heavens. Enter the Red Fiend sword first. As long as another Shengyang pill appears on the sapling, I'll give it to you immediately. All right. Hearing Ningyu's words, the Red Fiend opened his mouth as though he wanted to say something. However, he didn't say anything in the end and entered the Red Fiend sword. The Red Fiend knew that once Ningyu had decided on something, it would be hard for him to change his mind. To be honest, it was indeed a waste for him to consume the Shengyang pill. A normal-sized Shengyang pill was equivalent to hundreds of Saint grade Yuan crystals. As long as the Yuan crystals reached the Saint grade, the effect would be different. There was a huge gap between Saint grade Yuan crystals and Royal grade Yuan crystals. If other Sovereign Realm cultivators were to know that Ningyu possessed a sapling that could produce Saint grade Yuan crystals, Ningyu's life would probably come to an end. A single Shengyang pill was enough to cause a huge battle between 2 7th grade sovereigns. Half a pill. Seeing the Red Fiend enter the Red Fiend sword, Ningyu raised his head and looked at the sapling in the air. What he saw left Ningyu dumbfounded. There was half a Shengyang pill hanging on the sapling. How long had it been? Half an hour. In just half an hour, the sapling had produced half a Shengyang pill. Didn't that mean that the sapling would produce a Shengyang pill every hour? Ningyu's face blazed. He could ignore the Royal Grade Flying Sword and give up on the Royal Grade Yuan crystals at any time. But now that the sapling could produce Shengyang pills at such a fast speed, he was finally moved. With the Dark Emperor's physique, as long as he had enough Shengyang pills, he would be able to reach a higher realm in a short period of time. A single Shengyang pill could allow the Dark Emperor to advance from a 1st grade sovereign to a 2nd grade sovereign. Then, 3 Shengyang pills could allow the Dark Emperor to advance to a 3rd grade sovereign. Gulp. At the thought of this, even Ningyu couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Scary. This was way too scary. Taking in a deep breath, Ningyu stared at the sapling and the half a Shengyang pill hanging on it. In the room, The Dark Emperor was refining the Shenyang pill while Ningyu was staring at the sapling. Everything was progressing in an orderly manner. Boom. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. A terrifying aura was emitted from the Dark Emperor's body, pressing down on Ningyu. Boom. At the same time, an aura that wasn't any weaker than the Dark Emperor's surged out from Ningyu's body. Pest. The two auras clashed and dissipated into the surroundings. Dark Emperor, you've advanced to a second-grade sovereign? Feeling the undulations of the Dark Emperor's aura, Ningyu's eyes widened. What's the use of that? Even if I advanced to a second-grade sovereign, I still can't defeat you. The Dark Emperor was a little crestfallen. Initially, the Dark Emperor thought that he would be able to defeat Ningyu easily after advancing to a second-grade sovereign. But from the looks of it, he was still too young. Chapter 1051. Unforeseen events. You can't put it that way. You're already able to fight me after advancing to grade 2. As long as you continue to work hard and advance to grade 3, you'll definitely be able to defeat me. Ningyu retracted his aura and began consoling the Dark Emperor. My ass. From now on, I'll take all the Shenyang pills that the sapling produces. The Dark Emperor glared at Ningyu fiercely. You might need a few days to refine a single Shenyang pill. However, for us heaven-devouring dogs, we don't even need a day to refine a single Shenyang pill. We'll only need a few hours to refine it completely. You have the cheek to say something like that. Ningyu let out a look of disdain. Forget it. If not for my help, you would have long exploded from the Shenyang pill. How could you possibly refine it then? Me. I don't care. All the Shenyang pills produced by the sapling will be taken by me. The Dark Emperor harumphed coldly. The Dark Emperor's cold words had only been spoken halfway when his expression changed drastically. Phew. That was because he saw that the second Shenyang pill on the sapling had already formed. The formation of the Shenyang pill wasn't scary. What was scary was that Ningyu had already arrived before the sapling and plucked the Shenyang pill. You can't use this Shenyang pill. Flicking his wrist, Ningyu tossed the Shenyang pill into the Red Fiend sword. The cultivation of the Red Fiend is slightly weaker. Leave this Shenyang pill for him to consume. Initially, the Dark Emperor had wanted to argue with Ningyu. However, when he heard Ningyu's words, he wilted. Indeed, the cultivation of the Red Fiend was the weakest among the three of them. He had no objections to leaving the Shenyang pill for the Red Fiend. Ningyu, the third Shenyang pill is mine. You and the Red Fiend can't snatch it from me. In a flash, the Dark Emperor arrived beside the sapling and waited silently. By the looks of it, the third Shenyang pill was definitely going to be his. Ningyu shrugged. He couldn't be bothered to get entangled with the Dark Emperor. So what if the third Shenyang pill was given to him? After all, the sapling would produce a Shenyang pill every once in a while. With the help of a Shenyang pill, it would be very difficult for him to raise his cultivation from grade 1 human sovereign to grade 2 human sovereign. Thus, one less Shenyang pill wouldn't make a difference. Speaking of which, I'm really a bit of a freak. Ningyu laughed at himself. The reason why Ningyu thought he was a freak was because his physique was special. Every time his cultivation level increased, he needed an enormous amount of essence qi. The sky-devouring hound required an enormous amount of yuan qi to advance from grade 1 to grade 2, but the amount of yuan qi required by Ningyu was even greater. At the very least, I need 2 Shenyang pills, or even 3 Shenyang pills, to advance from grade 1 human sovereign to grade 2 human sovereign. Shaking his head, Ningyu tossed those thoughts to the back of his mind before recalling the cultivation method of the universe palm. At the realm of initial success, the palm print would be able to transform into the left half of the heaven character. At the realm of intermediate success, the palm print would be able to transform into a complete heaven character. At the realm of greater success, the palm print would be able to transform into a heaven character. At the realm of ultimate success, the palm print would be able to transform into a single character. I've cultivated the universe palm to initial success previously. This time around, I'll try to cultivate it to the realm of intermediate success. Narrowing his eyes, Ningyu channeled the yuan qi in his sea of consciousness into his palm and started cultivating the universe palm. The Universe Palm was the 9th stance of the Netherworld Samsara Palm and was extremely powerful. If Ningyu could cultivate the Universe Palm to the realm of ultimate success, his strength could even increase by 50%. Catcher. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu sent out multiple palm prints. When the palm print was in midair, it dissipated on its own. This won't do. The realm of Universe Palm is too difficult to grasp. Ningyu frowned slightly and gave up on cultivating the Universe Palm for the time being. The first few stances of the Netherworld Samsara Palm did not pose much pressure to Ningyu. There were even a few stances that he could cultivate to the realm of ultimate success within an hour. But the further he got to the latter few stances, the harder it was to cultivate. Especially when it came to the realm of the Universe Palm, it was not something that could be successfully cultivated with vigorous yuan qi and strong soul force. It was about comprehension. Speaking of comprehension, for Ningyu to be able to cultivate to Sky Supreme in his previous life, he should not be considered too weak. But in the realm of the Universe Palm, he stumbled and was unable to cultivate it to the realm of intermediate success. Seems like the method isn't right. I'll change it. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu decided to adopt a different method to cultivate the Universe Palm. For the realm of initial success, he relied on yuan qi to successfully cultivate the Universe Palm. His yuan qi was the main and his soul force was supplementary. For the realm of intermediate success, he decided to use his soul force as the main and his yuan qi as supplementary. The soul force in his body rumbled as Ningyu injected all his yuan qi into the surface of his wrist without any hesitation. Buzz. On the surface of his palm, terrifying yuan qi constantly rumbled as though it was trying to break free from Ningyu's palm. The strength of Ningyu's soul force was at the early stage of 7th grade. With the strength of the early stage of 7th grade, coupled with the majestic yuan qi, Ningyu suddenly blasted out with his right hand. Swoosh. In the next moment, a red palm print peeled off from Ningyu's palm. Qian. In midair, a huge Qian character appeared. Success. Looking at the huge character in midair, Ningyu let out a long breath. If he continued to cultivate according to the previous method, Ningyu might not be able to successfully cultivate the realm of Universe Palm even if he spent a day. Changing his cultivation method, he only used half an hour to easily cultivate Universe Palm to the realm of intermediate success. The speed at which the sapling produces Shenyang pills seems to have slowed down significantly. Looking at the Shenyang pill hanging on the sapling, Ningyu mumbled to himself. The first Shenyang pill took less than half an hour to form. The second Shenyang pill took 2 hours to form. As for the third Shenyang pill, if nothing went wrong, it would take another 5 hours to form. If this goes on, I'll be lucky to be able to produce 3 Shenyang pills a day. Initially, Ningyu had high hopes for the sapling. After all, it had produced 2 Shenyang pills in such a short period of time. But now, it seemed like he had rejoiced too early. Forget it. It's good that it can produce Shenyang pills. It's better than nothing. Turning his head away, Ningyu stopped observing the sapling and started cultivating. Cultivating the Universe Palm had taken quite a toll on him. He had to recover his strength back to its peak before he could start investigating the crisis of the Ning family and think of a way to rescue everyone who was trapped. Within the room, Ningyu was cultivating while the Dark Emperor was staring at the Shenyang pill on the sapling without shifting his attention away for a single moment. Everything seemed to be in harmony. Creak. However, this harmony did not last for long before it was broken. A figure slammed heavily against the wooden door, causing it to burst open. Swoosh. The sudden change caused Ningyu to stand up abruptly, and his expression became extremely gloomy. That was because this figure was none other than the 8-legged centipede. Chapter 1052. Impossible. Rumble. Although Earthshaker and the black-robed elder were both 6th grade supreme martial artists, Ningyu could clearly tell that Earthshaker was at a disadvantage. Moreover, there were 4 cultivators behind the battlefield. 2 young cultivators and 2 middle-aged men. The young cultivators were all 1st grade supreme martial artists. The middle-aged man was a 5th grade supreme martial artist. 2 1st grade supreme martial artists, 2 5th grade supreme martial artists, and the 6th grade supreme martial artist elder who was fighting Earthshaker. No wonder they could cause such a huge commotion. Fortunately, there are no fatal injuries. Ningyu used his senses to probe the eight-legged centipede and let out a long sigh. The eight-legged centipede was a fourth-grade supreme martial artist demonic beast. Its body was terrifyingly hard. Two fifth-grade supreme martial artists alone would not be able to kill it in a short time. Dark Emperor, stop watching and come with me. Ningyu waved his wrist and sent the sapling into his storage ring. He then walked out of the room. When he came to the eight-legged centipede, Ningyu paused for a moment and said, "Hold on for a while. I will be back to treat you soon." After that, Ningyu came to the door and stood still. "He, you will be treating the eight-legged centipede soon?" As soon as Ningyu left the room, one of the young cultivators smiled and said, "Ningyu, we wanted to go to the capital to look for you. Who would have thought that we would meet you here? If that's the case, we can only send you to hell first. You know me." Hearing that, Ningyu was slightly startled. He hesitated and said, "Could it be that you are from the Lanqing nation?" "Oh, not bad, not bad. You know our name." The young cultivator said, "I am from the Feng clan of the Lanqing nation. My name is Feng Wen. The one beside me is the eldest prince of the Lanqing nation. Your names have nothing to do with me. What I want to ask is why you attacked my friend," Ningyu said in a deep voice. Whether it was Feng Wen or the first prince, Ningyu did not care about them. The talents of Feng Wen and the first prince were not particularly top-notch. Even if they had raised their cultivation to first-grade human sovereign, they were no different from trash in Ningyu's eyes. The only ones that Ningyu found troublesome were the 6th-grade human Supreme Realm Black-Robed Elder and the two 5th-grade human Supreme Realm Elders beside him. Earthshaker was no match for the Black-Robed Elder. He could only last for half an hour at most. Any longer and he would definitely be defeated. Dark Emperor, what are your chances of victory against a 5th-grade human sovereign? Ningyu transmitted his voice to the Dark Emperor. No matter how weak he is, I can still contend against him. If he is slightly weaker, I can even kill him. At this point, the Dark Emperor's expression had also become very solemn. Danger. At this moment, the Dark Emperor felt a deep sense of danger. "All right, I'll leave one 5th-grade human sovereign to you. Earthshaker will deal with the Black-Robed Elder and leave the other 5th-grade human sovereign to me." Ningyu nodded his head and quickly arranged everything. Feng Wen and the first prince of the Lanqing kingdom were not part of Ningyu's plan. Bang! However, just as Ningyu finished arranging the plan, something unexpected happened. A crisp sound rang out in the area. Shortly after, a figure was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Earthshaker. The figure that was sent flying was none other than Earthshaker. Falling heavily onto the ground, Earthshaker's aura rapidly weakened. Can't even withstand a single blow. After repelling Earthshaker, the black-robed elder curled his lips and faintly said, "I've even killed demonic beasts that are stronger than you, not to mention trash like you, Earthshaker. Venerable spiritual rune is indeed powerful." Seeing the Earthshaker divine ox being pushed back, Feng Wen immediately bootlicked, "I reckon that the Venerable will be able to reach the 7th-grade sovereign realm in just a short period of time. This is truly a cause for celebration. At that time, I hope that the Venerable can guide me." Well said, well said. Both of your talents are top-notch in the Lanqing kingdom. Venerable spiritual rune was very satisfied with Feng Wen's flattery. "With my recommendation, the two of you will definitely be able to enter the ranks of core disciples in the next disciple recruitment." Hearing Venerable spiritual rune's words, Feng Wen and the first prince of the Lanqing kingdom were ecstatic. The disciples of the Blood God Palace were divided into outer disciples, inner disciples, core disciples, and core disciples. Once a core disciple reached the rank of core disciple, they would be able to enjoy a lot of benefits. Becoming a core disciple of the Blood God Palace wasn't just about having a high cultivation, but also having a recommendation. Originally, Feng Wen and the first prince of the Lanqing kingdom thought that they would never be able to become a core disciple of the Blood God Palace. Now, it seemed that they were wrong. Now that the opportunity was right in front of them, how could they not be excited? "You did a good job this time. You allowed me to capture a 6th-grade human sovereign realm demonic beast." Venerable Spiritual Rune was very satisfied and said, "Before coming to the Great Xia Kingdom, I observed the missions in the mission hall of the Blood God Palace. One of the missions is to kill Ning Yu, and the reward seems to be quite high. After you kill Ning Yu, cut off his head and bring it to the mission hall of the Blood God Palace. You will be able to exchange it for a generous reward. Thank you, Venerable Spiritual Rune." Feng Wen and the first prince of the Lanqing Kingdom hurriedly said. Since Venerable Spiritual Rune had said so, it meant that he had treated them as his own people. As the saying goes, leaning against a big tree is good shade. Venerable Spiritual Rune's tree was not an ordinary tree, but a towering one. "Ningyu, you heard what Venerable Spiritual Rune said. Are you going to kill yourself, or do you want us to do it?" Feng Wen stared at Ningyu and said proudly, "You can save yourself a lot of pain if you do it yourself. Once we do it, you will suffer hellish pain. Is that so?" Ningyu raised his eyebrows and said, "Of course." Feng Wen said coldly, "In my life, there is no such thing as suicide." Ningyu said faintly, "You are a first-grade human sovereign, and so am I. You might not be able to win against me." "Might not?" Feng Wen was stunned at first, then he laughed wildly. "I will let you know what true strength is." As soon as the word strength was said, Feng Wen rose from the ground and disappeared in an instant. Bang! Not long after Feng Wen's body disappeared, Ningyu threw a punch. In the void, a figure was forcefully thrown out. "What?" Looking at the familiar figure that was thrown out of the void, the first prince of the Lanqing Kingdom, Lan Chen's expression changed drastically. Feng Wen. The person who was thrown out was different from what Lan Chen had imagined. Impossible. Lan Chen's expression was ugly. Feng Wen's strength was only slightly weaker than his. Even Feng Wen was knocked back in one move. One could imagine that even if he were to fight against Ning Yu, he would not have a good ending. Chapter 1053. Fear nothing is impossible. Ning Yu did not continue to attack after pushing back Feng Wen. Instead, he spoke indifferently. "Ning Yu, don't you dare be so arrogant." Being pushed back by Ning Yu, Feng Wen felt a little embarrassed and coldly said, "I was careless earlier. You won't be so lucky for the second move." As he spoke, Feng Wen stomped on the ground and charged out once again. Venerable Spiritual Rune, isn't Feng Wen being a little impulsive? Lan Chen knitted his brows when he saw Feng Wen attacking without any regard for his life. "You go as well." Venerable Spiritual Rune was a 6th grade sovereign, so how could he care about Feng Wen's life? After a brief pondering, Venerable Spiritual Rune barked, "I'll see what this Ningyu is capable of." "I'll go as well." Lan Chen was a little dumbfounded as he stood on the spot. The current situation was clear. Feng Wen, who had launched his second attack, was being pushed back. At this moment, even if he went up to help, it would be no different from throwing his life away. Venerable Spiritual Rune, why don't we? Lan Chen did not want to die for nothing. Venerable Spiritual Rune coldly snorted and interrupted Lan Chen, "I don't want to repeat myself." Whoosh! Lan Chen's body trembled when he was scolded by Venerable Spiritual Rune. Venerable Spiritual Rune was a 6th grade sovereign, and offending him would definitely not end well for him. Gritting his teeth, Lan Chen's silhouette burst out and instantly joined the battlefield. Lan Chen was only slightly stronger than Feng Wen. Even if the two of them joined hands, they still wouldn't be Ning Yu's opponent. Dark Emperor, Ning Yu doesn't seem to want to kill those two 1st grade sovereigns. Up in the sky, Ning Yu and Feng Wen were engaged in an intense battle. On the other side, Earthshaker said with his brows knitted. Indeed, he doesn't want to kill them. The Dark Emperor nodded and said, with Ning Yu's strength, he would probably be able to kill Feng Wen and the others in less than 3 minutes. Now that 5 minutes have passed, Ning Yu is still tied with them. "What should we do?" Earthshaker asked. "Let's go." The Dark Emperor sourly glared at Earthshaker and said, "The situation is clear. You deal with the 6th grade mortal sovereign, the Spiritual Rune Venerable. As for the remaining 2 5th grade mortal sovereigns, Ning Yu and I will take one each. I'm no match for a Venerable of spiritual tattoos." Earthshaker knew his own strength very well. In a short fight, he could stall the venerable of spiritual tattoos. But if it took too long, he would definitely be killed by the venerable of spiritual tattoos. Nonsense. I also know that you are no match for venerable spiritual tattoo. The Dark Emperor said in a deep voice, you only need to stall the venerable of spiritual tattoos. After Ning Yu and I kill the 2 5th grade mortal sovereigns, we will go help you. At that time, the 3 of us will be able to fight against the venerable of spiritual tattoos. Sigh, I guess that's the only way. The Dark Emperor sighed. Poochie. Poochie. Suddenly, in mid-air, Ning Yu grabbed the opportunity and threw out 2 punches, hitting Feng Wen and Lan Chen's hearts. 2 sounds of blood being spat out could be heard. Feng Wen and Lan Chen fell backward simultaneously. Bang! Bang! Their bodies hit the ground and a crisp sound was heard. Feng Wen climbed up from the ground with difficulty and pointed at Ning Yu. He said fiercely, with your strength, why? Puff. Halfway through his words, Feng Wen blacked out and fell to the ground again. At this moment, Feng Wen of the Feng clan of the Lanqing country died on the spot. I admit that I have underestimated you. Compared to Feng Wen, Lan Chen was much better. After all, Lan Chen was slightly stronger than Feng Wen. The next time I see you, I will definitely turn your bones into ashes. Lan Chen walked towards the venerable of spiritual tattoos. With the venerable of spiritual tattoos by his side, Lan Chen did not believe that Ning Yu would dare to attack again. Reality proved that Lan Chen's guess was correct. Ning Yu did not dare to attack. However, Lan Chen had neglected one important thing. The next moment, Lan Chen's mouth opened wide and his pupils doubled in size. His face was filled with disbelief. Puff. Pulling out the flying sword from Lan Chen's heart, the venerable of spiritual tattoos said, the Blood God Palace has spent so many resources to raise your cultivation from the yin-yang realm to the 1st grade human supreme. I never thought that the 2 of you together would not be a match for Ning Yu. Therefore, there is only one outcome for the 2 of you, and that is death. Venerable of spiritual tattoos, Ning Yu's strength is indeed very, very, puff. Lan Chen's eyes widened. Just as he was about to defend himself, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Lan Chen only had the cultivation of a grade 1 human sovereign. Furthermore, he was a grade 1 human sovereign that relied on resources. How could he escape from the venerable of spiritual tattoos? Furthermore, the venerable of spiritual tattoos had only used 10% of his strength to kill Lan Chen. The people of the Blood God Palace are indeed overbearing. They even kill their own people. Ning Yu returned to the side of the Earthshaker and the Dark Emperor and said, Venerable of spiritual tattoos, you killed Feng Wen and Lan Chen now. Are you going to kill the 2 5th grade human sovereigns next to them? Whoosh. Ning Yu's words caused the expressions of the 2 5th grade human sovereigns to change slightly. In the Blood God Palace, the venerable of spiritual tattoos was famous for being a deviant. The words he said a moment ago would be eaten by him the next moment. The 2 5th grade human sovereigns beside the venerable of spiritual tattoos were somewhat worried. Nonsense. The venerable of spiritual tattoos said coldly, Feng Wen and Lan Chen are only from the Lanqing kingdom. They have nothing to do with the Blood God Palace. I killed them because they were too weak. They couldn't even defeat a piece of trash like you. Haha, are they weak? To tell you the truth, not only could they not kill me, but the 2 5th grade human sovereigns beside you also couldn't kill me. Ning Yu said with a faint smile. They are both 5th grade human sovereigns. Even they couldn't kill me. Are you shameless enough to kill them too? Ning Yu's current appearance was completely fearless. The venerable of spiritual tattoos muttered in his heart. He more or less knew what happened at the gate of Tianqian City. He wasn't afraid of Ning Yu, but the Sword of Evil. The Sword of Evil also disappeared after the frenzied killer left. One must know that the Sword Nefarious Venerable was an initial phase 7th grade sovereign. Now that Ning Yu was fearless, did that mean that the Sword Nefarious Venerable had returned? I have to find a way to inform the Blood Ghost Ancestor and ask him to come here as soon as possible. The Venerable of spiritual tattoos secretly used a secret method. The Blood God Palace had sent a 7th grade human sovereign to the Great Xia Kingdom in order to completely eradicate the Corpse Yin sect in the Great Xia Kingdom. The 7th grade human sovereign was called the Blood Ghost Ancestor. In the Blood God Palace, the Blood Ghost Ancestor's status was even higher than most of the elders. This was because the Blood Ghost Ancestor had a trump card that could even kill an 8th grade human sovereign. Ningyu, I know that your Ning family was occupied by Shen Tu Hao. How about we make a deal? I can help you deal with Shen Tu Hao, and you only need to join the Blood God Palace. Chapter 1054. Slap each other. Are you sure you can help me deal with Shen Tu Hao? Ningyu frowned and said hesitantly. The spiritual rune Venerable's cultivation was only at the 6th grade human supreme realm. As for Shen Tu Hao, he was a 7th grade mortal sovereign. In addition, Shen Tu Hao was the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion's great elder, so he definitely had many hidden cards in his hands. Ningyu did not believe that the Venerable Spirit Tattoo was Shen Tu Hao's match. Shen Tu Hao can't even protect himself right now. As long as I help, do you still need to worry about not being able to solve the problem of the Ning family? The spiritual tattoo Venerable smiled and said, moreover, it won't be long before the Da Xia kingdom is occupied by the Blood God Palace. At that time, I can recommend you to be the ruler of the Da Xia kingdom. It sounds tempting. After pondering for a while, Ningyu changed the topic and said, unfortunately, I don't believe your words because you are a cultivator from the Blood God Palace. Courting death. With a low shout, the Venerable of Spiritual Tattoos stamped on the ground and rushed to Ningyu. The Venerable of Spiritual Tattoos was furious. If you don't want to cooperate with me, then why are you talking so much? What a waste of time. The Venerable of Spiritual Runes was very smart. Extremely smart. Through his conversation with Ningyu, he was almost certain that the Sword of Evil behind Ningyu was definitely not here. Since the Sword of Evil, that 7th grade human supreme, isn't here, what do I have to fear? Therefore, the Venerable One immediately rushed out, and his target was Ningyu. The Venerable of Spiritual Tattoos wanted to tear Ningyu into pieces and grind his bones into ashes. Whoosh! As soon as the Venerable of Spiritual Tattoos rushed out, Earthshaker took a step forward and stood in front of Ningyu. Earthshaker, no matter what, you have to hold on for half an hour. Leaving those words behind, Ningyu charged towards the nearest 5th grade sovereign with the red demonic sword in his hand. Shio. Venerable Spiritual Tattoo had brought 2 5th grade supreme martial artists with him. Ningyu would deal with one, and the other would naturally be dealt with by the Dark Emperor. After advancing to 2nd grade sovereign, the Dark Emperor's strength had undergone a qualitative leap. Although he couldn't be compared to Ningyu, he should be able to contend against ordinary 5th grade sovereigns. Rumble. 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 Tianxian City, in the courtyard of Snow Domain Pavilion. On the 3 battlefields, 6 martial artists were fighting intensely. The one who fought with Ningyu was an old man in a grey robe. He was a late-stage 5th grade human supreme. The one fighting with the Dark Emperor was an old man in blue, a middle-stage 5th grade sovereign. Compared to the Dark Emperor, although Ningyu was facing a late-stage 5th grade sovereign, with the help of the Red Demon Sword, Ningyu still had the upper hand. Solitaire. With the Red Demon Sword in hand, Ningyu slashed out a sword wave in the air. A huge sword wave blasted towards the grey-robed old man. Kai Kai. Facing the huge sword wave, the grey-robed old man flicked his finger. Instantly, a cold gleam flew out and came into contact with the sword wave. With a crisp sound, both the sword wave and the cold gleam dissipated. Solitaire was only the 6th form of the Supreme 9 Purities sword art. Even if Ningyu had cultivated it to the ultimate level, its power was still limited. I have to find a way to get the last few forms of the Supreme 9 Purities sword art. Ningyu secretly made up his mind. The next time he met a martial artist from the Supreme 9 Purities temple, he would definitely find a way to force them to hand over the last few forms of the Supreme 9 Purities sword art. The Supreme 9 Purities sword art was no less terrifying than the Netherworld Samsara palm. However, Ningyu had only mastered the first 6 forms. Otherwise, with the Red Demon Sword, Ningyu could easily kill a 5th grade sovereign using the Supreme 9 Purities sword art. You dare to be distracted while fighting me? You're asking for death. Seeing that Ningyu was slightly distracted, The grey-robed old man let out a low roar. Immediately, the yuan qi in his sea of consciousness gathered on his wrist, and he blasted out a terrifying yuan qi light wave. Crack! The yuan qi light wave was about the size of a fist. Although it wasn't big, its power was abnormally terrifying. Not good. Ningyu paid a huge price for this distraction. Bang! The yuan qi light wave arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye, fiercely smashing into his chest. With a muffled sound, Ningyu's body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. Kid, your strength is only so. After succeeding in his attack, the grey-robed old man did not continue his attack. Instead, he stopped on the spot and said proudly, among the first-grade sovereign, you can be invincible. You can even fight against third-grade sovereigns. But, at this point, the grey-robed old man paused for a moment, then continued, I'm a fifth-grade sovereign. You're not even qualified to carry my shoes. Is that so? At this moment, not only was Ningyu not worried, he became extremely calm. Putting away the red demon sword, Ningyu said in an emotionless tone, I'm a first-grade human supreme martial artist, and you're a fifth-grade human supreme martial artist. There's a huge difference between our cultivation levels, but in terms of vitality, you're no match for me. The density of my yuan qi is not as good as yours. The grey-robed old man seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first laughed wildly, then shouted coldly, Kid, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Let's exchange a punch. If you can survive, I promise to leave your corpse intact. Are you sure you want to exchange punches with me? Ningyu's eyes widened in surprise. Soon, Ningyu revealed an ecstatic expression and said, in the past, a peak fourth-grade sovereign from the Blood God Palace exchanged punches with me. I accidentally killed him. Don't think that you're a late fifth-grade sovereign. You won't have the upper hand if you exchange punches with me. Arrogant. The grey-robed old man bellowed. Immediately, the yuan qi in his sea of consciousness gushed out and gathered on his right hand. Whoosh! As the yuan qi on the grey-robed old man's right hand increased, the surrounding air was compressed with his right hand as the center. You're giving me a chance by exchanging punches with me. Originally, if Ningyu wanted to kill the grey-robed old man, he would need to use many trump cards and consume a lot of energy. The grey-robed old man agreeing to exchange punches with him was giving him a chance. Divine Essence Pill. With a thought, Ningyu quietly took out the Divine Essence Pill from his storage ring. The Divine Essence Pill could restore the exhausted yuan qi to its peak state in a short period of time. With the Divine Essence Pill, Ningyu wasn't particularly afraid of exchanging punches with the grey-robed old man. If my yuan qi is exhausted, I can consume the Divine Essence Pill to instantly replenish my yuan qi. Ningyu didn't believe that the grey-robed old man had such a high-grade elixir. Brat, die. The grey-robed old man stomped on the ground and his figure burst out in a flash. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived before Ningyu. His fist that contained terrifying yuan qi headed straight for Ningyu's head. This fist was very powerful. If Ningyu was unfortunate enough to be hit in the head, he would have to say goodbye to his life. Even if he didn't die, he would be crippled for life. Universe Palm. At this critical moment, Ningyu didn't panic at all. The yuan qi in his body poured out and he even wrapped his early 7th grade soul force around his wrist. Chapter 1055. To Kill. Bang. The palm and fist collided, and a muffled sound rang out. Kid, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. A sinister smile appeared on the grey-robed elder's face. A sinister voice suddenly rang out. Devouring power. Ningyu's expression was very ugly. The grey-robed elder's fist contained not only terrifying yuan qi, but also an even more terrifying devouring power. The devouring power caused Ningyu's heart to palpitate. Oh right. Suddenly, Ningyu's mind moved and he began to communicate with the sapling. The sapling was the world tree, so ordinary devouring power couldn't even resist it. Ha ha ha. Ningyu laughed out loud after hearing the news from the sapling. He lost his mind. Ningyu's actions caused the grey-clothed old man's eyebrows to raise as he said, although I have the upper hand in our fight, there is no need for you to go crazy. Sigh. Then, the grey-robed old man sighed and said, I, Zhao Guan, originally didn't want to kill you, but you've already gone crazy. If I don't kill you, you won't be able to survive in the future. I can only kill you and then mince you into mincemeat. Take care of them. Who are you going to look after? Ning Yu revealed a perplexed expression when he heard the old man's words. He said, "Did your parents not use their brains when they named you? Take a look at what a stupid name this is." Kaka. Zhao Guan was so angry that his nose became crooked. He asked Zhao Guan not to look after him. Zhao Guan took a deep breath and retracted his devouring power. Since Ning Yu was mocking him like this, he decided not to kill Ning Yu first. Instead, he would slowly torture Ning Yu and let Ning Yu taste the 18 types of torture from the Blood God Palace. The devouring power has weakened. The weakening of the devouring power on his palm naturally did not escape Ning Yu's senses. Sapling, don't expose yourself. I'll play with him. Since Zhao Guan withdrew most of his devouring power, Ning Yu was no longer afraid of him. Gathering all the essence in his palm, Ning Yu suddenly exerted force. Immediately, a horrifying shockwave blasted at Zhao Guan's fist. Up until now, Ning Yu's palm was still in contact with Zhao Guan's fist. Insignificant skill. As a 5th-grade human sovereign, Zhao Guan was extremely confident in the density of his Yuan Qi. Facing the shockwave on his fist, he controlled his devouring power and swallowed the shockwave as well. Poochie. At this moment, the outcome of the battle on the other side of the battlefield was about to be decided. The blue-clothed old man took advantage of the Dark Emperor's carelessness and punched the Dark Emperor's body. The enormous force sent the Dark Emperor flying, and his body smashed into the wall. Bang! The abnormally sturdy wall collapsed after being hit by the Dark Emperor. Not good. Sapling, quickly attack. Seeing that the Dark Emperor had been defeated, Ning Yu couldn't care less anymore. He immediately communicated with the sapling and had it deal with Zhao Guan's power of devouring. Buzz. Upon receiving Ning Yu's order, the sapling darted out from the interspatial ring and instantly approached Zhao Guan's fist. What is this? Not good. When Zhao Guan first saw the sapling, he was a little puzzled, not knowing what it was. However, Zhao Guan's expression changed drastically when he sensed the terrifying devouring power emanating from the sapling. The devouring force emitted by the sapling was a lot more terrifying than his own devouring force. The two of them weren't even on the same level. Universe palm. But it was this 1 second of distraction that allowed Ning Yu to seize the opportunity. Opening his mouth and devouring the divine essence pill, Ning Yu used all the strength in his body to execute a palm seal. Rumble. In the air, the blood-red Qian character grew bigger and bigger. Not long after, the sky character arrived in front of Zhao Guan and abruptly smashed into his heart. Bang! A tearing pain came from his heart, causing Zhao Guan's face to contort into a hideous expression. The pain in his heart was not what Zhao Guan was most worried about. Because before the palm seal hit his heart, he had gathered all the primordial qi in his body on the surface of his heart to block Ning Yu's fatal attack. What worried Zhao Guan the most was the sapling in front of him. The sapling had already swallowed his devouring power, and now it had begun to devour him. Damn it! Zhao Guan was very upset. He was upset that he hadn't killed Ning Yu in advance. Now that he had used all his primordial qi to block the universe palm, how could he spare it to deal with the sapling? Spirit Tattoo Venerable. Helpless, Zhao Guan could only ask for help from Spirit Tattoo Venerable. Trash. Spirit Tattoo Venerable had the upper hand in the battle with Earthshaker. Just as he was about to gain an overwhelming advantage, Zhao Guan's cry for help was heard. Hold on for 3 seconds. Spirit Tattoo Venerable didn't want to save Zhao Guan, but he had no other choice. Zhao Guan was Blood Demon Ancestor's man. If he didn't save Zhao Guan, when Blood Demon Ancestor came, he would be dead. Forcing Earthshaker away, Spirit Tattoo Venerable waved his hands, tore the void, and went in. Where are you going? As long as Earthshaker wasn't a fool, he would never let Spirit Tattoo Venerable save Zhao Guan. Obviously, Earthshaker wasn't a fool. He launched his most powerful attack at the void. Poof! In the void, Spirit Tattoo Venerable was eager to save Zhao Guan, so he took a blow from Earthshaker. The attack of the Earthshaker Divine Ox wasn't just for show. No matter what, the Earthshaker Divine Ox was still a 6th grade sovereign. His all-out attack had caused the strength of the spiritual rune Venerable to drop by 20%. Ningyu, let Zhao Guan go. I can. After taking a blow from Earthshaker, Spirit Tattoo Venerable was not far from Zhao Guan and Ningyu. Before Spirit Tattoo Venerable could finish his words, his eyes widened and veins popped out on his forehead. Crack. Ningyu held the red demon sword and swung it down. So it's a world. Zhao Guan finally understood at the moment of death. The sapling was no ordinary object. It was the World Tree. However, Zhao Guan was destined to bury the name of the World Tree deep in his heart. He would never be able to say it for the rest of his life. Ningyu, you're finished. No one in this world can save you. Spirit Tattoo Venerable said fiercely, I won't kill you. I'll keep you alive until Blood Demon Ancestor comes to finish you off. What is Blood Demon Ancestor? After killing Zhao Guan, Ningyu controlled the sapling to return to the storage ring and frowned. Blood Demon Ancestor is a 7th grade human supreme. He's the person in charge of the Blood God Palace in the Lanqing Nation and the Great Xia Nation. Spirit Tattoo Venerable said coldly, Zhao Guan is Blood Demon Ancestor's man. How can he let you go after killing him? Do you think that I'm scared? There are at least 87th grade Sovereign Realm Sovereigns that have died in my hands. A mere Blood Ghost Ancestor is nothing in my eyes. In fact, Ningyu was right. In his previous life, there were indeed many 7th grade mortal sovereigns that died in his hands. The reason why Ningyu dared to say this to Spirit Tattoo Venerable was because he received a message from the Sword of Evil. Chapter 1056. Prideful. The spiritual rune Venerable widened his mouth as he couldn't believe his ears. The Blood Demon Ancestor was extremely powerful. Even a 6th grade sovereign like him couldn't withstand 3 moves from the Blood Demon Ancestor. Just what courage did Ningyu have to speak such words? Ningyu, looks like you have no idea how powerful the Blood Demon Ancestor is. I'll capture you first and kill you when the Blood Demon Ancestor arrives. The spiritual rune Venerable's gaze was cold as he charged forth. Not good. Seeing the spiritual rune Venerable charging out, the faces of the Earthshaker and the Dark Emperor changed as they hollered. Retreat. Just when the Earthshaker and Dark Emperor wanted to charge out, Ningyu grabbed onto their shoulders and swiftly retreated. What's going on? The Dark Emperor and Earthshaker were dumbfounded when Ningyu grabbed onto their shoulders. Boom. What happened next caused the Dark Emperor and Earthshaker to squint their eyes. A muffled sound resounded. The 6th grade sovereign spiritual rune Venerable was like a broken kite as he fell from the sky. Rustle. The sudden change not only shocked the Dark Emperor and Earthshaker, but even Ningyu narrowed his eyes. Initial phase 7th grade sovereign. Facing the spiritual rune Venerable, 2 blurry silhouettes gradually appeared. The difference in cultivation between the 2 silhouettes was a little huge. The younger one was only a 1st grade sovereign. The older one was an initial phase 7th grade sovereign. Who is it? Wiping the blood from the corner of his lips, the spiritual rune Venerable coldly said, Why did you make a move against me? Although the spiritual rune Venerable looked furious on the surface, he was inwardly cautious. The fact that the initial phase 7th grade sovereign realm before him could appear without anyone noticing and launch a sneak attack proved that he was powerful. Being questioned by the spiritual rune Venerable, the older cultivator felt a little awkward as he replied, I'm sorry, but our target is Ningyu, not you. It's a mistake, a mistake. Forget it, I'm not the kind of person who won't forgive others. I won't argue with you today, but I'll never see you again. The Venerable of Spirit Runes waved his hand, then tore open the void with both hands and entered. The enemy was too strong, and they were no match for them. They could only retreat first. Whoosh. Now that the spiritual tattoo Venerable had left, the blue-robed supreme martial artist also tore open the void and disappeared. Ahem. After Venerable spiritual tattoo left, the elder martial artist coughed twice and turned to the young martial artist beside him. Young master, are you sure that Ningyu is the martial artist who killed Kumo in the Elixir Cave of Great Xia Kingdom? No wonder he could kill Kumo. So he's a grade 1 human sovereign. The cultivator addressed as young master had no expression on his face. He said indifferently, Eastern War Venerate, go and guard the entrance. Without my permission, do not let anyone in. I want to deal with this Ningyu personally. Yes. The Eastern War Sovereign's figure flickered and he instantly disappeared. If I've guessed correctly, you should be Dan Yang. Ningyu said with a grave expression. Haha, very good. You actually know that I'm in the elixir cave. The young martial artist smiled and continued, you can call me eldest young master. Eldest young master? Ningyu was a little stunned. The division in the elixir cave was really strange. If there was an eldest young master, then wouldn't there be a young master? That's right, there's a young master in the elixir cave. As if he had guessed Ningyu's thoughts, the eldest young master said indifferently, eldest young master's cultivation is at least in the supremacy realm. Furthermore, you can lead an army of half-step supremacy pill puppets. You're very confident in your strength. You think you can defeat me? There were less than 8 minutes before the Sword of Evil returned. Against the Eastern War Sovereign, Ningyu wasn't absolutely sure that he could last 8 minutes. But against this so-called eldest young master, Ningyu was absolutely sure that he could last 8 minutes. If he used his trump card, Ningyu might even be able to kill him. Dan Yang's strength isn't something you can figure out. If I want to kill you, it's even easier than killing an ant, the eldest young master said indifferently, not taking Ningyu seriously at all. I'm curious about one thing. After a slight pause, Ningyu asked, are you a Danyang formed by soul power or a Danyang formed by vitality? Why do you ask? The eldest young master asked doubtfully. You're too stupid. If Ningyu asks this, he definitely wants to devour you. Idiot, trash, stupid, fool. Before Ningyu could answer the eldest young master, the Dark Emperor beside him shouted. Swoosh. Hearing this, the eldest young master's expression turned ugly. A dog dares to be so arrogant to me? He's simply courting death. The eldest young master's motive was to subdue Ningyu and have Ningyu follow him to conquer more pill caves. As for the Dark Emperor, he wasn't part of the eldest young master's plan. What if he was angry? Kill, of course. Not only did the eldest young master think so, but he also put it into action. You're just a grade 1 mortal sovereign. I don't believe that you're that strong. Looking at the incoming eldest young master, the Dark Emperor's eyes suddenly widened and 2 cold rays shot out from his eyes. What happened next left the Dark Emperor dumbfounded. Just as the cold light was about to reach the eldest young master, the eldest young master opened his mouth and swallowed it whole. Gulp. The Dark Emperor instantly stopped and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. It can even devour the cold ray shot out from my eyes. What the F***CK, isn't this too abnormal? Watch out. The Dark Emperor's momentary daze made him pay a heavy price. The eldest young master grabbed the opportunity and threw a punch at him. The Dark Emperor wasn't in his peak condition to begin with. Now that he was punched in the chest, his aura dropped to the freezing point. Can't even withstand a single blow. After casually defeating the Dark Emperor, the eldest young master turned to Ningyu and said, I'll give you one last chance. Submit to me, or I'll make you wish you were dead. You'll make me wish I were dead. At this moment, all of the worries in Ningyu's heart had been swept away. What he got in return was calmness. Dan Zhong had a nemesis, and this nemesis was on Ningyu. The sapling. The sapling was the world tree, and it had a crazy suppressive effect on Dan Zhong. When the sapling was still a flower bud, it was already able to devour the half-step supremacy realm Dan Xiong. Now that the flower bud had turned into a sapling, Ningyu didn't believe that the sapling wouldn't be able to deal with the grade 1 sovereign realm Dan Xiong. Yes, I'll make you wish you were dead. The eldest young master nodded and said, none of the people I want to kill have survived. It's obvious that I'll be the first to survive. Ningyu shrugged. Arrogant. With a deep roar, the eldest young master charged out. His target was Ningyu. The eldest young master's thoughts were simple. If you don't submit to me, I'll kill you. I've already done my best to let you live for so long. Dark Emperor, Earthshaker, enter the room first and try to recover to your peak condition. Leave the matters here to me. Ningyu turned and said to Earthshaker and the Dark Emperor. Chapter 1057. Increase in soul power. Ningyu, I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Therefore, I will kill you and then devour you. The young master laughed wildly. I will let you know that no one who offended Dan Kai. However, just as the eldest young master's maniacal laughter was heard, it stopped abruptly. Because the eldest young master had discovered something extremely terrifying. A sapling that wasn't too big was floating in the air in front of him. A terrifying devouring power shot out from the sapling. Retreat. The eldest young master was not the indecisive Dan Kai. A deep fear rose in the depths of his heart. Without a second word, he immediately retreated. Where there's life, there's hope. You want to leave? Not so easy. The East Warlord was still outside the snow pavilion. Once the young master left, the consequences would be unimaginable. The sapling could control the young master and even devour him, but it wouldn't be so effective against the East Warlord. Stop the young master and buy time for the sapling. Ningyu's hands began to move rhythmically. Universe palm. As Ningyu shouted in a low voice, a blood-red palm print appeared and blasted in the direction of the eldest young master. Fart. The huge Chen character exploded when it got close to the young master. The aftermath of the terrifying attack raged towards the young master. Block it. At the critical moment, the young master's soul power surged out and formed a soul power shield in front of him. I see, it's a Dan Kai formed from soul power. Sensing the terrifying soul force fluctuations emanating from the eldest young master, Ningyu revealed an ecstatic expression. His soul power had been stuck at the early 7th grade for a long time. If the sapling could devour the young master and return some pure soul power, he was 80% confident that his soul power could break through to the middle 7th grade. Strictly speaking, the universe palm was a soul attack. The stronger the soul power, the more powerful it would be. If his soul power could be raised to the middle 7th grade, he could instantly kill a 5th grade human supreme. He could even fight against a 6th grade human supreme martial artist. Sapling, you can enjoy yourself this time. Ningyu quickly communicated with the sapling. This is just an appetizer. As long as you refine it and feed back all your soul power to me, I can guarantee that you can devour that early stage 7th grade human supreme venerable Dan puppet outside. Buzz. The sapling swayed in the air, its meaning self-evident. Ningyu, do you think you can kill me like this? Too young. Seeing that the sapling was about to reach him, the young master yelled, East War Venerable, come and save me. Go ahead and scream. No one will come to save you even if you scream yourself hoarse. Ningyu's lips curled up into a smile. To tell you the truth, the sapling in front of you is a manifestation of the world tree. If your pill puppet clan runs into it, the only fate awaiting you is death. You won't have any chance to escape. What? World tree. The young master's pupils shrank. Ningyu was right. Their pill puppet clan's battle prowess was comparable to ancient demonic beasts in a one-on-one fight. The only thing they were afraid of was the world tree. In ancient times, the patriarch of the pill puppet clan was said to have died under the suppression of the world tree. How could the young master not be shocked when he saw the world tree reappear? Furthermore, the patriarch of the Pill Puppet Clan had predicted that the reappearance of the world tree would be the time of the Pill Puppet Clan's catastrophe. Anyone who saw the world tree had to pass the message back at all costs, even if it meant death. Ningyu, I didn't expect you to have the world tree. The young master calmed down after a lot of thoughts flashed through his mind. He clasped his hands together and from his ankles, he suddenly started burning. Spontaneous combustion? Ningyu was puzzled by the eldest young master's actions. Not good. 2 seconds later, Ningyu came to a realization. The young master wasn't trying to spontaneously combust, but was using a secret technique to inform the Pill Puppet Clan. Tree sapling, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and devour the young master before something unexpected happens. Ningyu hurriedly shouted. Buzz. While Ningyu was anxious, the tree sapling wasn't. It first punched a few times in the air, then tore the soul force barrier in front of the young master and attached itself to the young master's chest. Kai. An extremely terrifying devouring power emitted from the tree sapling and drilled into the young master's body. The moment the devouring power entered his body, the young master let out a hysterical roar. The feeling of being devoured pained the young master greatly. Ningyu, it doesn't matter if I die, but you'll have to endure the endless pursuit of the Pill Puppet Clan. Fut. Before the young master could finish the word kill, he spat out a mouthful of blood and his body turned into nothingness. Swoosh. A beam of soul force shot out from the tree sapling and instantly entered Ningyu's body. So much soul force. So many soul force fluctuations caused Ningyu to involuntarily suck in a breath of cold air. According to Ningyu's guess, this amount of pure soul force was enough to raise his soul force to the mid-7th grade. Crack. While Ningyu was refining the pure soul force, in an unknown space, a few old men were trembling, not daring to speak. An illusory voice rang out in the area. The Eastern Expedition Army has sent some vague news. It seems that they've found something on the pill puppet list in the Great Xia Kingdom. Send a few 8th grade human supreme martial artists to the Great Xia Kingdom to investigate the situation and inform me. After the 2 sentences were spoken, the area returned to its previous tranquility. The 3 or 4 old men looked at each other. They could all see the shock in each other's eyes. What did the Eastern Expedition Army find that attracted the old ancestors' attention? An old man asked doubtfully. Could it be that the Eastern Expedition Army found the top 10 items on the pill puppet list? Another old man frowned. Impossible. The last old man said in a deep voice, which one of the top 10 items on the pill puppet list isn't occupied by experts? If I'm not wrong, the strongest expert of the Eastern Expedition Army around the Great Xia Kingdom is the Eastern Warlord, an early 7th grade human supreme martial artist. No matter what, let's send an 8th grade human supreme martial artist to the Great Xia Kingdom. The old ancestor has spoken. If we don't send someone over, we won't have a good time. The old man who spoke first murmured. Who? At the same time, in the inner courtyard of the Snow Pavilion in Tianxian City of the Dazhou Kingdom, Ningyu slowly breathed out a mouthful of murky air. A slightly excited expression appeared on his face. The strength of a mid-7th grade soul force. Ningyu didn't expect that he could raise his soul force to the mid-7th grade in such a short time. After all, only 5 minutes had passed. Chapter 1058. If I encounter a spiritual tattoo venerable again, I can fight him head-on. Withdrawing all of his soul force into his body, Ningyu muttered, Eastern War Venerable probably hasn't discovered that I've killed the young master. I can use this time to rest and adjust my mental state to its peak. Although he had improved his soul power to the middle 7th grade, Ningyu knew that he was still no match for East War Venerable. East War Venerable was a powerful Dan puppet at the early 7th grade human supreme realm. Ningyu was confident that he could compete with a spiritual tattoo venerable, but not with East War Venerable. Crack. However, Ningyu had only rested for 2 minutes when he heard a crisp sound. Rumble. Following the crisp sound was a rumbling sound. Ningyu hurriedly released his perception. Sword of Evil. With his keen perception, Ningyu discovered that there were 3 experts fighting in front of the Snow Pavilion. Ningyu was very familiar with 2 of the martial artists. One was the Sword of Evil, and the other was East War Venerable. As for the last one, Ningyu was not familiar with him, but he could guess the identity of the spiritual tattoo venerable standing next to him. Blood Ghost Ancestor. 3 early 7th grade human supreme realm, Sword of Evil, East War Venerable, and Blood Ghost Ancestor from the Blood God Palace. At this moment, the 3 early 7th grade human supreme realm experts were fighting each other, with no one gaining the upper hand. Blood Ghost Ancestor, why don't you and I join hands to kill this stupid human? The battle lasted for a few minutes and then stopped. East War Venerable rolled his eyes and said to Blood Ghost Ancestor, there's a saying among humans that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If we join hands, we can kill this early 7th grade human supreme realm expert. Isn't it a piece of cake? Hehe, your Dan puppet is very interesting. Blood Ghost Ancestor said with a smile. In that case, I'll join hands with you to kill the Sword of Evil first. Humph. Do you think that you can kill me by joining hands? The Sword of Evil coldly snorted and said, look who this is. As he spoke, The Sword of Evil flicked his wrist and tossed out a head. Voila! When the onlookers saw the head tossed to the ground by the Sword of Evil, their pupils constricted and they looked incredulous. A bloodthirsty maniac. The head on the ground belonged to the frenzied bloodlust demon. After a period of pursuit, coupled with the special method Ning Yu had told him, the Sword of Evil finally found an opportunity to kill the frenzied killer demon. Crazed bloodlust demon was a person with 9 life providences. Not only had the Sword of Evil killed him, but it had also devoured all the energy in his body. In other words, the strength of the Sword of Evil had recovered to the peak of the early 7th grade human supreme realm. He was only half a step away from the middle 7th grade human supreme realm. The Blood Ghost ancestor knew how powerful the frenzied bloodlust demon was. Even he couldn't defeat the frenzied bloodlust demon at its peak. The fact that the Sword of Evil could kill the frenzied bloodlust demon meant that the Sword of Evil had some ability. Let the East War Venerable and the Sword of Evil fight. I'll wait for an opportunity to strike. The Blood Ghost ancestor said calmly, East War Venerable, I suddenly realized that there's something I need to do in the Blood God Palace. Hold the Sword of Evil back for now. We'll be right back. Swish. Swish. The Blood Ghost ancestor grabbed the Spirit Rune Venerable and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Damn it. The East War Venerable's face turned ugly when he saw the Blood Ghost ancestor's departure. He wasn't 100% confident that he could kill the Sword of Evil in a one-on-one fight. Right. The East War Venerable suddenly thought of a way to force the Sword of Evil to submit. Ning Yu. As long as the eldest young master captured Ning Yu and used Ning Yu as a hostage, the Sword of Evil wouldn't hold back. The corners of the East War Venerable's mouth curled up as he coldly said, Sword of Evil, Ning Yu is in our hands. If you know what's good for you, you'd better stop now. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen. Ning Yu is really in our hands. The Sword of Evil looked at the Sword of Evil as if he was looking at a fool and hesitated. Turn around and see who that cultivator is. Who? The East War Venerable's heart skipped a beat and he hurriedly turned his head. The East War Venerable's heart sank to the bottom with a single glance. In his eyes was Ning Yu, not the eldest young master. Where's the eldest young master, Ning Yu? The East War Venerable couldn't wait to kill Ning Yu, but he knew that he couldn't do so now. At the very least, he couldn't act rashly before he knew the eldest young master's safety. If anything happened to the eldest young master, he couldn't afford to bear the consequences. You're asking me? Ning Yu pointed at his own nose and immediately changed the topic. He said coldly, who do I ask? If I have to answer everyone who asks me a question, won't I be exhausted to death? Crack. The East War Venerable gritted his teeth and clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. Ning Yu was simply asking for a beating. The hatred in his heart would not dissipate until he killed Ning Yu. East War Venerable, are you still thinking of using Ning Yu to threaten me? The Sword of Evil's voice rang out in a timely manner. If you don't hand over the eldest young master today, I'll kill you. The East War Venerable unleashed his aura and pressed down on Ning Yu. In the face of the pressure, Ning Yu wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he walked towards the Sword of Evil step by step. Kai. Kai. The East War Venerable's pressure wasn't too powerful. It only slightly slowed down Ning Yu's pace. You're courting death. Seeing that the pressure had no effect, the East War Venerable decided to personally kill Ning Yu. Since Ning Yu wasn't willing to reveal the eldest young master's whereabouts, it meant that the eldest young master was likely to be killed. If the eldest young master was killed, the East War Venerable was destined to be punished. Therefore, the East War Venerable vented all his anger on Ning Yu. He wanted to grind Ning Yu's bones to ashes. With me around, if you can still kill Ning Yu, how am I supposed to show my face in this continent? The Sword of Evil charged towards the East War Venerable with the low-grade Emperor flying sword in his hand. Rumble. In the air, the Sword of Evil and the East War Venerable started fighting. Without the Blood Ghost ancestor holding him back, the East War Venerable gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. If this continued, the East War Venerable would definitely be defeated. I have to think of a way. As the East War Venerable fought with the Sword of Evil, he secretly thought of a countermeasure. It was impossible to escape. Not in this lifetime. The eldest young master was trapped, so he could only hold back Ningyu and the Sword of Evil. He believed that it wouldn't take long for Dan Zhong's Eastern Expedition Army to send a Grade 7 Supreme over. At that time, he could join forces with the Grade 7 Supreme sent by the Eastern Expedition Army to kill the Sword of Evil. Wouldn't that be a piece of cake? Right now, he only needed to hold back the Sword of Evil. The Blood Ghost Ancestor and the Spiritual Rune Venerable are still hiding in the void. Raising his head to look at the intense battle between the Sword of Evil and the East War Venerable, Ningyu's expression turned a little grave. If the Sword of Evil went all out, he could kill the East War Venerable. Chapter 1059. Unbelievable. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable, are you sure Zhao Guan was killed by that Grade 1 Human Supreme? Blood Ghost Ancestor frowned and asked in confusion. That's right. Although Ningyu is only a Grade 1 Human Supreme, he is very powerful. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable nodded and said, Zhao Guan was careless, so Ningyu seized the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Humph. What are you doing? You are a Grade 6 Human Supreme. Can't you kill a Grade 1 Human Supreme like Ningyu? Blood Ghost Ancestor snorted with an ugly expression. In the Blood God Palace, everyone knew that Zhao Guan was protected by him. Now that Zhao Guan was killed, wouldn't he become a joke when he returned to the Blood God Palace? I also want to kill Ningyu, but East War Master suddenly appeared. He is an early-stage Grade 7 Human Supreme. I am not his. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable said with a sad face. Slap. Before Spiritual Tattoo Venerable could finish, Blood Ghost Ancestor slapped him in the face. I don't care about the process, only the result. Blood Ghost Ancestor said coldly. Good. I will go kill Ningyu now. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable gritted his teeth. Go, don't let me down. Blood Ghost Ancestor waved his hand and said, with East War Master holding him back, the Sword of Evil can't attack you. Swish. Spiritual Tattoo Venerable didn't say anything. Instead, his figure flashed and quietly approached Ningyu. In fact, Spiritual Tattoo Venerable was only worried about the Sword of Evil. Without the Sword of Evil, he would have killed Ningyu long ago. Why would he wait until now? After all, he was in the dark while Ningyu was in the light. If he wanted to launch a sneak attack, Ningyu would have no chance to survive. Sword of Evil, if you go all out, how long will it take to kill East War Master? Ningyu did not know the conversation between Venerable Spiritual Tattoo and Blood Ghost Ancestor. At this time, Ningyu was communicating with the Sword of Evil, trying to solve this situation. Ningyu's thinking was very simple. The Sword of Evil attacked with all his might, attacking East War Sovereign. As for Patriarch Blood Ghost, he would hold him back. Half an hour. The Sword of Evil's reply caused Ningyu's expression to turn grave. As a first-grade human sovereign, it was a huge challenge for Ningyu to resist an early 7th-grade human sovereign for half an hour. Let's fight. Ningyu decided to give it a try since he couldn't catch the wolf without risking the child. If he won, he would be able to get rid of a huge problem. If he lost, he would just have to say goodbye. A person's life is spent in constant choices. If you don't give it your all, what difference is there between you and a salted fish? Sword of Evil. Oh no. Ningyu was just about to tell the Sword of Evil to go all out, but his pupils shrank and he quickly retreated. Die. The space in front of Ningyu suddenly split apart as a 6th-grade human supreme realm cultivator appeared from within. Venerable Spiritual Tattoo. Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He only cared about talking to the Sword of Evil and ignored the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo. Universe Palm. At this critical moment, Ningyu hurriedly used his newly advanced 7th-grade middle-stage soul power, wrapped it around his wrist, and pushed out with his palm. You overestimate yourself. Because Ningyu had suppressed his soul power inside the palm, in the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo's view, Ningyu's palm was not very powerful. With a flick of his sleeve, a cold light flew out and came into close contact with the blood-red palm. As for the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo himself, he charged at Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. This, the Venerable Spiritual Tattoo's action made Ningyu a little confused. It was so much so that Ningyu even doubted how the spiritual rune Venerable reached the 6th grade sovereign realm. His palm print was so powerful. Could it be that the Venerable of spiritual runes was blind? Oh no. It turned out that the Venerable spiritual tattoo was not blind, but he was too confident in himself. When the cold light he flung out was shattered by the blood-red palm, the Venerable spiritual tattoo finally reacted and hurriedly used a spell to block the blood-red palm. Whoosh! The battle between the Venerable spiritual tattoo and Ningyu caused a huge uproar in the surroundings. Although the East War Venerable and the Sword of Evil were both early 7th grade human sovereigns and their battle was rather exciting, the focus of everyone's attention was on Ningyu and the Venerable spiritual tattoo. That was because there was a huge gap between Ningyu and the Venerable spiritual tattoo. One was a 6th grade human sovereign, while the other was a 1st grade human sovereign. The spectators might not be able to witness a battle between a 1st grade human sovereign and a 6th grade human sovereign in their entire lives. Therefore, no one wanted to miss this opportunity. Whoosh! After blocking Ningyu's first palm print, the Venerable of spiritual tattoos heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that it was a close call. Fortunately, he reacted at the crucial moment. Otherwise, he would have failed miserably in the first move. Ningyu, I admit that I underestimated you. But from now on, you won't be so lucky. Taking a deep breath, the Venerable spiritual tattoo continued, you can be proud of yourself for being able to block one of my moves as a 1st grade human sovereign. Why should I be proud? Do you really think that you can defeat me? Ningyu asked in doubt. Ha ha ha. The Venerable spiritual tattoo raised his head and laughed before he coldly said, I, the Venerable spiritual tattoo, only need one move to kill you. Noisy. These 2 words came out of Ningyu's mouth. Then, he rose from the ground and charged towards the Venerable. Originally, it was the Venerable spiritual tattoo who launched a sneak attack on Ningyu. But in the end, it was Ningyu who took the initiative to attack the Venerable spiritual tattoo. He had to admit that this was really ironic. I wonder if Ningyu can defeat the Venerable spiritual tattoo. Defeat? You're overthinking it. If Ningyu can defeat the Venerable spiritual tattoo, I'll twist my head off. That's right. There's a huge gap between Ningyu and the Venerable spiritual tattoo. Ningyu is too arrogant. If I were him, I would have escaped long ago. Why would I stay and die? The surrounding martial artists were not optimistic about Ningyu taking the initiative to attack the Venerable spiritual tattoo. A 1st grade human supreme martial artist defeating a 6th grade human supreme martial artist was too shocking. Aunt Yoon, Ningyu has already passed the hurdle of the frenzied massacre demon. This time, it's time for you to help him, right? Among the crowd, 2 martial artists were conversing in low voices. These 2 martial artists were none other than Yoon Mu and the martial talisman Venerable. The martial talisman Venerable slightly frowned and said, I can save him, but I have to let him suffer a little first. Aunt Yoon, the Venerable spiritual tattoo is a 6th grade human sovereign. Ningyu is definitely not his match, Yoon Mu hurriedly said. I know that Ningyu is not the Venerable spiritual tattoo's match, but it won't be easy for the Venerable spiritual tattoo to kill Ningyu. At most, he will only be able to heavily injure Ningyu. The martial talisman Venerable faintly said. Furthermore, even if, what? The martial talisman Venerable abruptly stopped halfway through his words. That was because the martial talisman Venerable had discovered something terrifying. In the distance, Ningyu's fist collided with the Venerable spiritual tattoo's fist. Ah! The Venerable spiritual tattoo let out a miserable shriek like a pig being slaughtered. Chapter 1060. Is it done? Crash. The sudden change caused an uproar in the surroundings. The spiritual tattoo Venerable was a grade 6 human supreme. How could he be killed in one move? Furthermore, the most shocking thing was that the spiritual tattoo Venerable was devoured into a pile of flesh. Ningyu can't be so powerful. He's only a grade 1 human supreme, yet he can kill a grade 6 human supreme. Could it be that the spiritual tattoo Venerable isn't at his peak? Impossible. The spiritual tattoo Venerable has always been at his peak. The reason why Ningyu was able to kill him was because Ningyu suddenly released an extremely powerful devouring power. The last cultivator's words shocked everyone. Devouring power. No matter when, devouring power was a terrifying existence. How terrifying was Ningyu's devouring power to devour the spiritual tattoo venerable into a pile of flesh in such a short period of time? One must know that not long ago, when the Dark Emperor devoured number 9 at the city gate of Tianqian City, everyone was extremely shocked. Now that Ningyu had devoured the venerable of spiritual runes in an even shorter time, everyone's shock could no longer be described as indescribable. They could only be described as dumbfounded. You're courting death. Seeing that the spiritual tattoo venerable was killed, the blood ghost ancestor instantly dashed out of the void and charged at Ningyu at an astonishing speed. First, Zhao Guan was killed, and now the spiritual tattoo venerable was killed. The anger in the blood ghost ancestor's heart reached its peak. Kai. Everyone in the blood god palace knew that when the blood ghost ancestor was enraged, blood would flow like a river. Blood ghost ancestor, who was in a state of rage, squeezed the air so hard that crackling sounds rang out wherever he passed. Not good. Seeing that the blood ghost ancestor was about to reach Ningyu, the sword of evil forced the East War venerable back and instantly stood in front of Ningyu. His fist collided with the blood ghost ancestor's fist. Bang! A crisp sound rang out, and both the sword of evil and the blood demon patriarch retreated several feet in unison. The sword of evil and Ningyu killed Zhao Guan and the blood demon patriarch in succession. No one in the world can save him, blood ghost patriarch said coldly. Today, Ningyu must die. East War sovereign. Then, ancestor blood ghost turned to look at East War sovereign and said in a deep voice, "You and I will join forces and kill the sword of evil." "Are you talking to me?" East War sovereign pointed at his nose and said, "Just now, I wanted to join forces with you to deal with the sword of evil, but you didn't agree. Now you want to join forces with me to deal with the sword of evil? Haha, no way. You." Ancestor blood ghost's face was gloomy, on the brink of a violent rage. The sword of evil was very powerful. Without East War sovereign's help, Patriarch Blood Ghost was not confident that he could defeat him. "The sword of evil, you actually dare to come back?" Just as Ancestor Blood Ghost was feeling troubled, a powerful voice sounded from the distant horizon. Shua. Not long after, a figure tore through the void, speeding over. Shen Tu Hao. Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared, Ancestor Blood Ghost said, "The peerless geniuses of your 9 cauldrons divine pavilion were all slaughtered by the sword of evil, and even the crazy bloodthirsty demon was killed by him. Don't you think it's a bit too late for you to come over?" Humph. Ancestor Blood Ghost, I, Shen Tu Hao, do not need you to judge how I do things. With a cold snort, Shen Tu Hao said, "The crazy bloodthirsty demon was trash. Even the sword of evil couldn't kill him. If he died, then he died. Haha, Shen Tu Hao, the current situation is already very clear. The two of us will join hands and kill Venerable Sword Evil first." Faced with Shen Tu Hao's rebuke, the Blood Ghost ancestor was not angered at all. Instead, he laughed. "We can join forces, but the precondition is that we have to kill the two of them together." Shen Tu Hao fiercely glared at Venerable Sword Nefarious and Eastern War Venerable. 9 of my peerless geniuses were killed by Venerable Sword Nefarious and Eastern War Venerable, while a 4th grade sovereign was killed by this Dan Ming. You mean to say that the disappearance of the people in Profound Sky City was caused by the East War sovereign? Ancestor Blood Ghost said hesitantly. Of course. Shen Tu Hao said coldly, "You and I will join forces and kill the East War sovereign and the Sword of Evil. In the end, we will each take one of their corpses." All right. Without thinking too much, Ancestor Blood Ghost agreed to Shen Tu Hao's suggestion. Ancestor Blood Ghost was very shrewd. Among the 4 early 7th grade sovereigns present, the Sword of Evil was the strongest, followed by him and Shen Tu Hao, and the East War sovereign was the weakest. If the two of them joined forces, killing the Sword of Evil and the East War sovereign shouldn't be a problem. Dark Emperor, Earthshaker, how long will it take for the two of you to recover to your peak state? While Ancestor Blood Ghost and Shen Tu Hao were talking, Ningyu started to talk to the Dark Emperor and Earthshaker. Ningyu's thoughts were very clear. The crazy bloodthirsty demon had already been killed by the Sword of Evil, and the 9 peerless geniuses of the first-grade sovereign realm were also dead. The Ning family's defense must be very weak right now. If the Earthshaker and the Dark Emperor went over now, they wouldn't need to spend too much effort to chase away the experts of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, or even kill them all. It might be a little difficult to recover to our peak state. The Earthshaker said, but if I join forces with the Dark Emperor, killing a 5th-grade sovereign realm shouldn't be a problem. You take the 8-legged centipede and immediately head to the Ning family. You must eliminate all the forces of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion in the Ning family. Ning Yu said solemnly. Understood. The Dark Emperor and the Earthshaker responded, then tore through the void and disappeared. As Shen Tu Hao and the rest's attention was on the Sword of Evil, no one noticed the departure of the Earthshaker and the 8-legged centipede. Eastern War Sovereign. Not long after the Earthshaker and the Dark Emperor left, Ningyu knew that he had to do something to delay Shen Tu Hao. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said in a clear voice, Ancestor Blood Ghost and Shen Tu Hao joined forces. Do you want to join forces with us? It's not impossible to join forces with me. As long as you release the eldest young master, I will join forces with you to deal with Shen Tu Hao and the rest. Even now, the Eastern War Sovereign was still thinking about the eldest young master. Shrugging his shoulders, Ningyu said, now that things have come to this, I don't want to hide it from you anymore. The eldest young master is still alive. When Ningyu spoke of panic, he did not even frown. You must join forces with us to deal with Shen Tu Hao and the Ancestor Blood Ghost. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that the eldest young master will not be killed by me. Ningyu licked his lips and said, the eldest young master's soul force is very vigorous. Good. I agree to join forces with you. The Eastern War Sovereign nodded his head heavily and said, but leave the Ancestor Blood Ghost to the Sword of Evil, and leave Shen Tu Hao to me. No problem. Ningyu smiled. Have you discussed it? While Ningyu and the Eastern War Sovereign were talking, the Ancestor Blood Ghost and Shen Tu Hao did not stop them. Chapter 1061. Calm not yet. Ningyu waved his hand at Shen Tu Hao and said, although you guys aren't young anymore, there's no need to be so anxious. Young people should be more energetic, and old people shouldn't lose their vitality. Ningyu's words made everyone's faces black. How could you say such words to 2 initial 7th-grade sovereign realm sovereigns? You're courting death. Sure enough, as soon as Ningyu's voice fell, Ancestor Blood Ghost cursed loudly and was the first to rush toward him. The Blood Ghost Ancestor couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to kill Ningyu first before dealing with the Sword of Evil and East War Sovereign. Let me. Seeing that the Sword of Evil wanted to help, Ningyu took a step forward and said in a solemn voice. Ningyu's action once again caused everyone to be shocked. How much confidence did he have to face the Blood Ghost Ancestor head-on? Isn't Ningyu a little too daring? The Blood Ghost Ancestor is a 7th-grade sovereign realm sovereign. He's extremely powerful. It's not that he's daring, it's that his head was kicked by a donkey. In my opinion, Xiao Chen must have lost his mind. He must have a high fever, and his brain must have become muddled. You want to face me head-on? Just as expected, Ningyu's action caused the Blood Ghost Ancestor to be slightly stunned. Ever since he advanced to 7th-grade sovereign realm, no one had ever dared to face him head-on. What's more, his opponent was only a 1st-grade human supreme martial artist. Ningyu, I'll let you know the consequences of being arrogant before me. The Blood Ghost Ancestor let out a low roar, then poured the energy in his body into his wrist and threw a punch towards Ningyu. PSSST. The might of the Blood Ghost Ancestor's punch had reached a terrifying level. Not to mention a 1st-grade sovereign, even a 3rd or 4th-grade sovereign realm sovereign wouldn't be able to withstand it. Aunt Yun, quickly save Ningyu. In the distance, Yunmu saw that Ningyu was about to take the Blood Ghost Ancestor's punch head-on. Don't worry, I want to see where Ningyu gets his confidence from. The talisman martial supremacy said lightly. Aunt Yun, it'll be too late if we delay any longer. How could Ningyu be a match for the Blood Ghost Ancestor? Yunmu was so anxious that she was about to cry. Venerable talisman martial glared at Yunmu before fixing his gaze on Ningyu. Supremacy Talisman Marshal also believed that Ningyu could block Blood Ghost Ancestor's punch. However, for some reason, Supremacy Talisman Marshal wanted to see Ningyu and Patriarch Blood Ghost fight. He wanted to see the gap between Ningyu and Patriarch Blood Ghost. Bang! The next moment, Ningyu and Blood Ghost Ancestor's fists collided. Catcher! A crisp sound came from Ningyu's fist. Fart! After that, a large mouthful of blood sprayed from Ningyu's mouth, and his body was blasted flying. Ha ha ha, Ningyu, I only used 50% of my strength in this punch. I didn't expect that you couldn't even block it. If I used my full strength, you would have been killed by me long ago. Succeeding in one move, Blood Ghost Ancestor threw his head back and laughed wildly, charging towards Ningyu again. Since he decided to kill Ningyu, Blood Ghost Ancestor would not hold back. On the surface, he said that he only used 50% of his strength. In reality, that was not the case. In order to kill Ningyu in one move, he used a full 80% of his strength. Who would have thought that a punch with 80% of his strength could not even kill Ningyu? Helpless, he could only attack a second time, striving to kill Ningyu domineeringly. Good chance. How could the Sword of Evil miss such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Everyone thought that Ningyu was arrogant and overestimating himself, but that was not the case. Ningyu had already secretly discussed with the Sword of Evil that he would take Blood Ghost Ancestor's move head-on. At that time, Blood Ghost Ancestor's emotions would definitely fluctuate. At that time, the Sword of Evil would attack powerfully, striving to severely injure Blood Ghost Ancestor. Ningyu, die! Oh no! For the second move, Blood Ghost Ancestor used all his strength. Seeing that his fist was about to hit Ningyu's heart, Blood Ghost Ancestor could not help but laugh wildly. However, before his fist hit Ningyu's heart, Blood Ghost Ancestor's expression changed drastically. Without thinking much, he immediately retreated. Poof! At this time, Blood Ghost Ancestor wanted to escape, but it was obviously too late. In the blink of an eye, the Sword of Evil appeared beside him, holding a low-grade royal rank flying sword, and stabbed it into his body. Damn it! Fortunately, Blood Ghost Ancestor slightly tilted his body at a critical moment. Otherwise, just the Sword of Evil's sword would be enough to take his old life. Go! Although the Sword of Evil didn't stab his heart, Blood Ghost Ancestor's aura also dropped a lot. Clenching his fists tightly, Blood Ghost Ancestor didn't even say a word before tearing through the void and disappearing in an instant. Blood Ghost Ancestor's sudden departure made Shintu-Hao's expression very ugly. Originally, he and Blood Ghost Ancestor could easily defeat the Sword of Evil and the Eastern Warlord if they joined forces. Now that Blood Ghost Ancestor had fled alone, how could he fight against two? Swish. Sometimes, it really was a case of rain falling on a roof. At the end of the street, a figure ran towards them in a sorry state. Not good, Great Elder, not good. The figure shouted as he ran. Bai Peng, what's the matter? Shintu-Hao said coldly. Just now, two experts suddenly killed their way into the Ning family and killed all the people we left in the Ning family. The warrior called Bai Peng didn't even have time to catch his breath and hurriedly said. After saying this, Bai Peng took a deep breath. However, there was still a trace of fear in his eyes. Who broke into the Ning family? Shintu-Hao was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Not only did he not get to Joding the Venerable on this trip to Tianxian City, but it also caused him to lose a lot. First, the 9 peerless geniuses were killed, then the crazed killer was also killed, and even the people he left in the Ning family were uprooted. Only Bai Peng, a third-grade human sovereign, was left alive. If Bai Peng died, he would only be left with a single commander. Poochie. Bai Peng didn't let Shintu-Hao down. His eyes suddenly rolled back and he died on the spot. Swish. After Bai Peng died, a figure sped over from afar. The Dark Emperor. This figure was none other than the Dark Emperor. Coming to Ningyu's side, the Dark Emperor said, "It's settled." No one from the Ning family was injured. Earthshaker and 8-legged centipede stayed in the Ning family. I'm here to kill that third-grade human sovereign. No need. That third-grade human sovereign is already dead. He's over there. Ningyu pointed at Bai Peng and said. This Bai Peng isn't simple. He withstood 3 of my moves and didn't die. He even made it here," the Dark Emperor said with a solemn expression. "He's indeed very strong. There aren't many third-grade human sovereigns who can withstand 3 of your moves." Ningyu added, "Today, all of you will die." The conversation between Ningyu and the Dark Emperor caused Shen Tu Hao's entire body to tremble in anger. "Shen Tu Hao, aren't you being too optimistic?" Ningyu shrugged and said, "The blood demon ancestor has already escaped, and your wings have all been removed by us. What do you have to fight against us? Haha, if you think that I'm only an early 7th grade human sovereign, then I can tell you that you're too naive." Chapter 1062. Conference Hall Boom. When Shen Tu Hao's words rang out, everyone in the region had completely quietened down. The silence was suffocating. Boom. The silence did not last for long, before it was broken by a soaring aura. Many cultivators looked at Shen Tu Hao with fear. 7th grade intermediate sovereign. Shen Tu Hao was not an initial 7th grade sovereign, but a 7th grade intermediate sovereign. "Ningyu, I've realized that you're a troublemaker. Everything that happened in Profound Sky City recently was more or less related to you." Shen Tu Hao said indifferently, "Because of your stupidity, I've decided to slaughter the entire Ning family after I kill you." An ominous glint flashed across Shen Tu Hao's cold eyes. Stepping on the ground, Shen Tu Hao's entire body leapt up, bringing along gusts of wind as he charged towards Ningyu. Rustle. Seeing Shen Tu Hao charging out, the Sword of Evil also shot out in an instant. His galloping figure seemed to have torn apart the obstruction of the air, arriving before Shen Tu Hao in the blink of an eye. In that instant, the two figures clashed together without dodging. Boom. In that instant of impact, violent origin energy abruptly spread out. An extremely powerful shock wave constantly swept out in all directions. Crack. The hard ground was shaken by the shockwave, and a tiny crack appeared, emitting a cracking sound. The two figures separated upon contact, each taking a few steps back before stabilizing their figures. From the distance that the two of them retreated, it was clear that Shen Tu Hao had the upper hand in this move. Interesting, very interesting. After that move, Shen Tu Hao did not continue to attack. Instead, an arc rose from the corner of his mouth as he said, "Ningyu, Sword of Evil, I'll let you live a little longer. 3 days later, I'll come and take your lives." Buzz. Shen Tu Hao's figure gradually turned illusory. In the end, he even completely dissipated between the heavens and earth. "Ningyu, are you going to let Shen Tu Hao go just like that?" Seeing Shen Tu Hao leave, the Dark Emperor frowned. "What else?" Ningyu spread his hands towards the Dark Emperor, and said, "If you can kill Shen Tu Hao, you can chase after him, I won't stop you." "Don't, I still want to live a little longer," the Dark Emperor hurriedly said. "To chase after Shen Tu Hao? What a joke." Shen Tu Hao was a 7th grade middle stage supreme martial artist. His strength was abnormally abnormal. The Dark Emperor only had the cultivation of a grade 2 human sovereign. Unless he raised his cultivation to grade 3, he would be courting death if he fought with Shen Tu Hao. "Let's go." Ningyu didn't want to waste time here. Shen Tu Hao was a sinister and cunning person. If he were to turn back halfway and kill his way into the Ning family, wouldn't that be the end of it? The most important thing now was to first return to the Ning family, and then think of a way to get rid of Shen Tu Hao. Shen Tu Hao and the Blood Ghost ancestor were both formidable opponents. Although they were all heavily injured, it was still very easy for them to launch a sneak attack on a Creation Realm martial artist. "You can't leave. Hand over the young master." Ningyu and the others had only taken a few steps when the Eastern War Lord shouted in a deep voice, "If you want the young master, go to the Ning family tomorrow evening." Ningyu didn't even turn his head. After leaving these words, he disappeared. Crack. Looking at Ningyu's departing figure, the Eastern War Lord clenched his fists, and a cold expression appeared in his eyes. Tianxian City, Ning family. Conference hall. At this moment, the conference hall was filled with many martial artists and demonic beasts. Those who had originally stayed in the Ning family were Ning He, Ning Tang, the silver-winged dragon, the twin-horned beast, Duan Cheng, and Ouyang Lun. Those in the storage ring were the Lightning Wolf King, Qin Xiong, the gold-devouring demon lion, and the fire divine eagle. The Ning family was able to escape danger this time, all thanks to these two seniors. Ning He sat on the main seat of the conference hall, and even his voice was trembling a little. In the conference hall, apart from Ning Tang, Ning His cultivation was the lowest. He felt pressured when Ning Yu insisted that he sit on the main seat. Ning Yu, did you hear that? Your grandfather calls me senior. Are you going to call me senior too from now on? Being addressed as senior by Ning He, the Dark Emperor immediately raised his nose and said proudly, "Come, call me that." Bang! Ning Yu kicked the Dark Emperor's butt and kicked him out of the conference hall. You stay outside the conference hall obediently. Without my permission, you are not allowed to take half a step into the conference hall. Since the Dark Emperor dared to tease Ning Yu naturally wouldn't let him have it easy. If you don't want to go in, then don't go in. I don't care. The Dark Emperor pursed his lips and then rolled his eyes. He stared at Earthshaker and said, "Old Nyo, don't stay inside. Let's go out and have a chat." Earthshaker's face was full of black lines. He turned his head and pretended not to hear. You offended Ning Yu yourself. Don't drag me down with you. Boring. Seeing that Earthshaker was ignoring him, the Dark Emperor shrugged and immediately lay on the ground lazily and listlessly. Grandfather, I plan to make some contributions to the Ning family this time. After getting rid of the Dark Emperor, Ning Yu said to Ning He, "Call all the younger generation of the Ning family to the martial arts practice field. I have something to announce." Sigh, alright, I'll do it now. Ning He had long wanted to leave. To be honest, he was under great pressure in the conference hall. Now that he had the chance to leave, he immediately got up and left. Wait for me. Seeing Ning He leave, Ning Tang hurriedly followed. Ning Tang's cultivation was lower than Ning His. Even his legs were trembling a little. After Ning He and Ning Tang left, Ning Yu's gaze slowly swept across everyone in the conference hall. Among you, many people and demonic beasts have followed me through fire and water. I'm very grateful to you. After pondering for a moment, Ning Yu said in a clear voice, I won't hide it from you. The next 3 days are related to the Ning family and my personal safety. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. If you want to stay, I'll welcome you with both hands. After saying that, Ning Yu closed his eyes and waited quietly. Tick, tick. Time was ticking away. Everyone in the conference hall looked at each other. No one said anything. With the Sword of Evil, an early-stage 7th grade supreme martial artist, around and displaying his aura, who would dare to leave? Leaving at this time was no different from courting death. Very well, since no one wants to leave, I'll talk about the plan for the next 3 days. 10 minutes later, Ning Yu slowly opened his eyes and said lightly, according to my estimation, the Eastern War Venerable will not come alone tomorrow. If I'm not wrong, he will join forces with the Blood God Palace's ancestor Xue Gui and the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilions Shen Tu how to attack the Ning family. At that time, all people and demonic beasts whose cultivation is lower than the supreme martial artist realm will hide in the Ning family's forbidden area. No matter what happens, they are not allowed to come out. All martial artists whose cultivation has reached the supreme martial artist realm, follow me to the martial arts practice field. Swish. After saying that, Ning Yu was the first to leave the conference hall and walk toward the martial arts practice field. Chapter 1063. News Tianchuan City, Ning Family, Martial Arts Practice Field. Under the leadership of Ning He, all the younger generation of the Ning family were standing in the martial arts practice field. The older generation were divided into 2 rows on either side. Very good. It seems that you have been practicing very hard during this period of time. Ning Yu's perception swept over the younger generation of the Ning family. Compared with the last time when Ning Yu returned to the Ning family, the cultivation of the younger generation of the Ning family had made a qualitative leap. Most of them were at the acquired realm, and a few had reached the innate realm. There was even one who had reached the true martial realm. You should have heard of empowerment. Ning Yu said loudly. His voice contained a faint fluctuation of primordial qi, so that the younger generation of the Ning family could hear it clearly. Whoosh! Ningyu's words caused the younger generation of the Ning family to be in an uproar. There were many ways to improve one's cultivation, such as swallowing elixirs, secluded cultivation, but there was only one way that could improve a martial artist's cultivation in the shortest time possible. Empowerment. Empowerment could allow a martial artist of the innate realm to improve his cultivation to the true martial realm, the primordial Dan realm, or even the yin-yang realm in a short period of time. However, the conditions required for a martial artist to improve from the innate realm to the yin-yang realm were too harsh. First, the martial artist of the innate realm must have a strong physique that could withstand such a powerful energy. Ningyu's idea was very simple. He wanted to empower the younger generation of the Ning family to double their cultivation. I've heard of empowerment. Brother Yu, do you want to empower us? Brother Yu, we also want to improve our cultivation as soon as possible and contribute to the Ning family. Hearing Ningyu mention empowerment, many of the younger generation of the Ning family were in a heated discussion. Ningyu had become the idol of the younger generation of the Ning family. You only know one thing but not the other. Ningyu felt that this group of people were too excited. He had to let them know the dangers of the blessing. Although the success rate of empowerment is relatively high, if your physique is not up to standard, forcefully empowerment will only lead to death. Everyone, come over here. I want to check everyone one by one. Those whose physiques do not meet the requirements cannot be imparted. Sure. Since Ningyu had spoken, the younger generation of Ningyu did not dare to be negligent. One by one, they lined up and walked towards Ningyu. The first one to arrive in front of Ningyu was Ning Cheng, who was at the advanced stage of the Hu Tian realm. Ningyu placed his right hand on Ning Cheng's shoulder and closed his eyes. A wisp of soul force gushed out and entered Ning Cheng's body through his right hand. Ning Cheng didn't even dare to breathe loudly as he waited for his fate to befall him. Pass. Go to the side, someone will help you. As Ningyu spoke, Ning Cheng heaved a sigh of relief and a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. The metal-devouring demon lion and the others were very smart. When Ningyu mentioned empowerment, they knew why Ningyu had called them over. The first one to help Ning Cheng was the metal-devouring demon lion. He put his hands on Ning Cheng's back and frantically poured energy into Ning Cheng's body. Bang! Not long after, a muffled sound came from Ning Cheng's body. Peak of the Xiantian realm. At this moment, Ning Cheng advanced from the advanced stage of the Hutian realm to the peak of the Xiantian realm. I advanced to the peak of the Xiantian realm? Feeling the majestic fluctuation of essence qi in his sea of consciousness, Ning Cheng was a little dumbfounded. With his talent, it would be difficult for him to advance to the peak of the Xiantian realm in his lifetime. At this moment, he felt like he was dreaming. Ning Cheng, hurry up and thank the metal-devouring demon lion. Ning, he scolded, don't get carried away now. When you advance to the true martial realm in the future, you will turn the world upside down. Ning, he was very clear that as the Ning family gained more and more resources, the cultivation of the Ning family would also rise. Just like he had never thought that the Ning family would dominate Tianqian City. Thank you, senior metal-devouring demon lion. Thank you, brother Yu. Being scolded by Ning Cheng hurriedly said. Well, you go and familiarize yourself first. Don't make any moves during this period. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Ning Cheng didn't have to do so. It was natural for him to make some contributions to the family when his cultivation had improved. Ningyu didn't want everyone to criticize him behind his back. Next. With Ning Cheng as a successful example, many of the younger generation were eager to try. Of course, not everyone's physique could be empowered. Some people succeeded, some people failed. Some people were happy, and some people were sad. In general, everything was going on in an orderly manner. There weren't too many young people in the Ning family. In less than an hour, the Ning family had checked everyone. Among more than 30 young martial artists, 10 were unqualified, and 20 were qualified. These 20 qualified martial artists had all been empowered. According to their physiques, the improvement of their cultivation was also different. Grandfather, your cultivation is at the peak of the primal core realm. Let the sword of evil empower you. After all the young people had been properly handled, Ningyu looked at Ninghe and said, the situation in Tianqian City will become more and more complicated, and there will be more and more experts. As the head of the family, it's a bit unreasonable that your cultivation is only at the peak of the primal core realm. No need, I'm an old man. Leave the opportunity to the young people. Ninghe hurriedly declined. After 3 hours of empowerment, Ninghe advanced to the peak of the primal core realm. In the past, Ninghe didn't even think about the cultivation of the peak of the primal core realm, and he was very satisfied. Hearing Ninghe's words, the surrounding members of the Ning family all stared at Ningyu, their faces full of expectation. Humph! Ningyu snorted coldly and slightly exerted his aura. If you only want to rely on empowerment to improve your cultivation, the Ning family will soon collapse. Ningyu said, if a family wants to prosper, it must form an effective competition mechanism. Otherwise, it will soon decline. Ningyu's words made everyone feel ashamed. Indeed, they had been blinded by the empowerment, and they only wanted to rely on empowerment to improve their cultivation. Haha, I didn't expect the peerless genius of the Ning family, Ningyu, to have such an attractive side. At this moment, a faint voice sounded from the entrance of the martial arts arena. Following that, 2 figures appeared in everyone's vision. It's you. Looking at the familiar figures, Ningyu frowned slightly. These 2 figures were none other than Supremacy of Talisman Marshal and Yunmu. Ningyu, how have you been? After a while, Supremacy of Talisman Marshal and Yunmu came to stand beside Ningyu. Supremacy of Talisman Marshal said, I'm here to inform you of 3 things. Supremacy of Talisman Marshal went straight to the point and didn't beat around the bush. First, Patriarch Blood Demon and Shen Tu Hao have not left Tianqian City. They are currently hiding in a secret place, and only I know of that place. Second, East War Supremacy has found the closest elixir cavern to Tianqian City, and has brought out a large number of supreme elixir puppets. I believe that tomorrow, you will have a fierce battle. As for the third, Chapter 1064. Heart-seizing pill grandfather, I have some matters to attend to. Ningyu understood what the talisman supremacy meant and said to Ninghe, whoosh. Let's go. Ninghe was not an unreasonable person. With a wave of his hand, he led the younger generation of the Ning family and many elders to disperse in a hubbub. Not long after, only a few people were left in the originally noisy martial arts practice field. Tell me, what's the third news? After everyone left, Ningyu looked at the talisman supremacy and said, the main reason I came this time is to make a deal with you. The talisman supremacy was not in a hurry to say the third news. Instead, he said indifferently, as long as you agree, I can help you block the Blood Demon Ancestor and Shen Tu Hao. As for the remaining Eastern War supremacy, you have to deal with it yourself. Don't dawdle. What deal? Ningyu said in a low voice. Haha, it's actually very simple. The talisman supremacy smiled and took out a jade bottle from his bosom. Swallow this medicinal pill, and I will help you block the Blood Demon Ancestor and Shen Tu Hao. You've been following us for so long. You can't be plotting against us, right? Before Ningyu could speak, the Dark Emperor said coldly, you want Ningyu to swallow a random medicinal pill. Do you think we're easy to bully? Boom. The Dark Emperor's words made the expressions of the surrounding people very ugly. Among them, the Sword of Evil and Earthshaker even released their auras and pressed towards the talisman supremacy. Ningyu, is this how you treat your guests? The talisman supremacy's expression was very ugly as he said in a low voice. I've always been very friendly to my friends, but... At this point, Ningyu paused for a moment, then said, I'm also very cruel to my enemies. Ha ha ha. Talisman supremacy was taken aback at first before he laughed maniacally. Young hero Ning, you sure know how to joke. I have no ill intentions coming to you this time. I just want to cooperate with you. You should also know that Yunmu and I used to be people from the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion, and we hate Shen Tu Hao to the core. As the saying goes, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. If you and Shen Tu Hao have a conflict, we definitely won't sit idly by. There are 2 pills in this jade bottle that can raise essence. Since you don't believe me, I'll swallow them for you to see. With that said, Talisman Martial Supremacy poured out a medicinal pill from the jade bottle and swallowed it in front of Ningyu. Catcher. When the medicinal pill entered his mouth, Talisman Martial Supremacy chewed twice before swallowing it into his stomach. I can devour the elixir, but before that, I want to know why a 5th-grade sovereign like you is so confident that you can withstand the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao. After receiving the jade bottle from the Talisman Martial Venerable, Ningyu did not consume it immediately. I'm relying on them. Talisman Martial Supremacy's brows twitched. Shortly after, she took out a storage pouch from her bosom and threw it on the ground. Rumble. In the next instant, the storage pouch suddenly exploded, and 2 colossal figures appeared before everyone's eyes. Puppets. Looking at the 2 puppets that suddenly appeared before them, everyone, including Ningyu, and even the Sword of Evil and Earthshaker, had a huge change in their expressions, as they were extremely shocked. The reason why the Earthshaker and the Sword of Evil were so shocked was because the aura emitted by the 2 puppets was simply too powerful. 7th grade Sovereign Realm Intermediate Phase. They were 2 puppets at the 7th grade Intermediate Human Supreme Master Realm. How is it? Can the 2 of them withstand the attacks of the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao? Talisman Martial Supremacy was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. The corner of her mouth curled up. As long as these 2 puppets are here, the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao will not be able to take half a step into the Ning family. You only need to withstand the Eastern War Sovereign and the other Dan Wu to ensure your safety. It's indeed very tempting. After a moment of silence, Ningyu said, however, every time these 2 puppets launch an attack, the energy they consume is estimated to be extremely huge. Even if I add all the crystals I have on me, I won't be able to sustain them for half an hour. You can't be thinking that Shuntu Hao and the Blood Ghost Ancestor will only stay in front of the Ning family for half an hour, right? I've already thought of this. Talisman Martial Supremacy was not worried at all. She continued, as long as you consume the elixir in the jade bottle, I can provide you with energy. A large amount of energy can sustain the 2 puppets for at least 3 days. 3 days. Ningyu's brows twitched. He was faintly moved. The energy needed to sustain a middle phase 7th grade sovereign for 3 days was extremely huge. His initial estimation was at least a few 100,000 royal grade origin crystals. From the Talisman Martial Supremacy, Ningyu did not sense any aura of royal grade origin crystals. How could he believe the Talisman Martial Supremacy? There's only one chance, you have to grasp it well. Seeing Ningyu's hesitation, the Talisman Martial Supremacy continued, if you don't believe me, I can swear to the heavens that I will definitely protect the Ning family, and not let the Blood Ghost Ancestor and Shuntu Hao take half a step into the Ning family. Indeed, you're up to no good. You want to use this elixir to control me. Ningyu did not pay attention to what the Talisman Martial Supremacy was saying. At this moment, Ningyu's attention was completely placed on the elixir. Pinnacle 8th grade elixir, the Heart-Reaping Elixir. Any cultivator below the 8th grade sovereign realm would be under the control of others the moment they consumed this heart-reaping elixir. There's a total of 2 heart-reaping elixirs. Whoever consumes the antidote first will be able to control the other person. With a thought, Ningyu said without any change in his expression, Talisman Martial Supremacy, before I consume the elixir, can I spar with you? Spar with me? The Talisman Martial Supremacy could not understand what Ningyu was trying to do. In terms of strength, a 5th grade sovereign realm like her wasn't Ningyu's opponent. She was strong because she had many trump cards. Aside from the 2 middle phase 7th grade sovereign realm puppets that she had just released, she still had a trump card puppet. The cultivation of that trump card puppet had reached the late phase 7th grade sovereign realm. What's wrong? Could it be that the Talisman Martial Supremacy is afraid of a 1st grade sovereign realm like me? Ningyu faintly smiled. It's impossible for me to be afraid. I'm just thinking of how not to hurt you. The Talisman Martial Supremacy said. Good. Straightforward indeed. 3 moves, let's spar 3 moves. As long as you can withstand 3 moves from me, I'll devour it into my stomach. Ning Yu waved the jade bottle in his hand, then rose from the ground and charged towards the talisman martial supremacy. Presumptuous. The talisman martial supremacy's face turned ugly from being mocked by Ning Yu. With a low roar, the talisman martial supremacy poured the energy in his sea of consciousness into his wrist, then threw a punch that collided with Ning Yu's fist. Swish. Swish. After a single move, the two figures were sent flying. Just from this move alone, Ning Yu and the talisman martial supremacy were evenly matched. No one could do anything to the other. Chapter 1065. 100 Flowers Palace. When Ning Yu said those words, the talisman venerable's face turned extremely ugly. Mockery. Naked mockery. Ning Yu's words were completely mocking her. Your strength is only SOSO. With a cold snort, the talisman venerable launched his attack before Ning Yu did. Sword of Evil, Ning Yu and the talisman venerable. Who is it? Earthshaker hesitated as he watched the battle between Ning Yu and the talisman venerable. Isn't that obvious? Of course, Ning Yu will win. Before the Sword of Evil could reply, the Dark Emperor curled his lips and said, "It's not like you don't know Ning Yu's strength. Not to mention a 5th grade sovereign, even a 6th grade sovereign wouldn't be able to pose a threat to him. The spiritual rune venerable has the pride of a 6th grade sovereign, but wasn't he still devoured by Ning Yu? As long as Ning Yu is willing, the talisman venerable won't be able to last more than 3 moves. Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, Earthshaker felt a little awkward. Actually, what Earthshaker was worried about was whether Ning Yu would devour the elixirs in the jade bottle. As for whether Ning Yu could win, Earthshaker wasn't too worried. Don't worry. Ning Yu knows what to do. He knows what to do. The Sword of Evil's tone was emotionless as he spoke. Bang! At this moment, Ning Yu and the talisman venerable separated for the second time. Compared to the previous time, the talisman venerable retreated a lot further this time. I used 50% of my strength for the first move, 80% for the second move, and 100% for the third move. Ning Yu shook his slightly swollen wrist, then his figure gradually became illusory and disappeared in an instant. Even if you use 100% of your strength, it's impossible for you to defeat me. With a low shout, the talisman martial supremacy gathered all the primordial chi in his body on his right hand and blasted it through the air. Kai Kai. Supremacy talisman marshal's punch was extremely powerful. The tightly shut space crackled under her bombardment. Talisman supremacy, I'm over here. Just as talisman martial supremacy punched out, Ning Yu appeared behind her. Whoosh! Ning Yu's right hand suddenly stretched out and streaked across the talisman martial supremacy's waist. Damn it! The sudden change caused the talisman supremacy's expression to change drastically, and he hurriedly threw a punch with all his strength. Catcher! Supremacy talisman marshal's punch was the most powerful punch she could unleash at her current stage. Space ruptured, and terrifying shockwaves covered the sky as they rushed towards Ning Yu. Talisman martial supremacy, thank you for your antidote. Ning Yu completely ignored the shockwaves coming from his surroundings. He first swallowed the heart-reaping pill into his mouth, then took out the antidote he obtained from the talisman martial supremacy's body. Puppet. Seeing that Ning Yu was about to swallow the antidote, the talisman martial supremacy yelled out and hurriedly threw out a storage pouch. Boom! The storage pouch exploded with a loud bang, and a late-stage Grade 7 Supremacy Realm puppet appeared in the Ning family's training field. Haha, Talisman Martial Supremacy, isn't it a little too late for you to invite it out now? Ning Yu smiled faintly, then threw the antidote into his mouth. Catcher. Following a crisp sound, the antidote was completely refined by Ning Yu. Stop. After refining the antidote, Ning Yu's eyes became incomparably cold as he berated. Sure. After Ning Yu swallowed the antidote, the talisman martial supremacy's body stiffened and completely disobeyed his own orders. Step by step, he walked towards Ning Yu. Heart-reaping pill, a peak grade 8 medicinal pill. Ning Yu stared at the talisman martial supremacy with interest and said, there are a total of 2 heart-reaping pills. Whoever swallows the antidote first can control the other person. However, The prerequisite is that both people have to swallow the heart-reaping pill. The reason you're willing to spar with me is because you want me to swallow the heart-reaping pill, then you'll swallow the antidote and control me. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How do you know about the heart-reaping pill? The talisman martial supremacy was shocked. The heart-reaping pill was a unique medicinal pill of the 100-Flower Palace. Apart from the upper echelons of the 100-Flower Palace, not many people knew about it. She had already investigated Ning Yu's background. Ever since he was born, he had never left the Great Xia Kingdom. Ning Yu knew about the heart-reaping pill. She couldn't believe it no matter what. Nothing is impossible. I'm an alchemy prodigy, and I know many medicinal pills. Ning Yu shrugged and said, not only do I know about a peak grade 8 medicinal pill like the heart-reaping pill, I've even refined it myself. Bah! The talisman martial supremacy spat and said, who doesn't know how to boast? Your soul force is only at the middle stage of grade 7, so how could you possibly refine a peak grade 8 heart-reaping pill? I don't want to say anything unnecessary. Let me ask you now, where did you come from? Ning Yu waved his hand and asked. During the last trip to the magical beast mountain range, Ning Yu clearly remembered that the talisman martial supremacy and Yun Mu had been sucked into the magic treasure cave. But in the magic treasure cave, he didn't find the two of them. This sort of situation left Ning Yu very puzzled. Aren't you already very clear? We come from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion. When we entered the Beast King Palace, we automatically separated ourselves from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion. The talisman martial supremacy replied. Looks like you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Since the talisman martial supremacy didn't want to speak the truth, Ning Yu simply didn't want to communicate with her. He directly controlled the heart-reaping pill in her body to take effect. The effects of the heart-reaping pill were powerful to a terrifying extent. The talisman martial supremacy only felt as if there were thousands of ants in his body, tearing at his organs. This sort of pain and agony was not something that a normal person could endure. Ning Yu, let go of Aunt Yun and I'll tell you. Seeing the talisman martial supremacy's pained appearance, Yun Mu hurriedly said. Yun Mu, if you dare to say it out, be careful that I. Seeing that Yun Mu wanted to reveal their identities, the talisman martial supremacy immediately berated him. However, the talisman martial supremacy was like a clay bodhisattva crossing a river at this time. She couldn't even protect herself. Before her voice fell, she rolled on the ground in pain. If you dare to interrupt again, I'll make you suffer 10,000 times more than what you're suffering now. Ning Yu glared fiercely at the talisman martial supremacy, and then he said to Yun Mu, speak. Where are you from? What's your identity? What's your objective? Tell me everything. Ning Yu, if I tell you, can you let go of Aunt Yun? Said Yun Mu. I don't want to say the same thing twice. Ning Yu's expression turned gloomy as he said, you still have one last chance. Ning Yu had always been on guard against the talisman martial supremacy and Yun Mu. Although they didn't ruthlessly kill him, they surely didn't have good intentions. Ning Yu had always been ruthless when dealing with people like this, and he wouldn't let them off just because they were women. Truthfully speaking, if it wasn't for the fact that Ning Yu knew that the heart-reaping pill was a medicinal pill unique to the Flower Palace, he would have executed the talisman martial supremacy on the spot based on her performance today. Why would he still be chattering with her here? Because in his previous lifetime, Ning Yu had a rather good relationship with the Flower Palace. Chapter 1066. Emperor Grade Origin Crystal Weir from the Flower Palace. Ning Yu's expression was extremely frightening, as if he wanted to eat someone alive. Yun Mu didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly said, Auntie Yun is an elder of the 100-Flower Palace and I am a disciple of the 100-Flower Palace. The reason we left the 100-Flower Palace to hide in the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion is because the Palace Master has suffered a heavy injury and urgently needs a peerless genius as a furnace to recover. And you, unfortunately, were chosen by us. The Centaurea Palace Mistress suffered heavy injuries. How did your Palace Lord get injured? Ning Yu frowned slightly. In the Mystic Moon continent, the 100-Flower Palace was a level higher than the Corpse Sect and the Blood God Palace. Its status was equivalent to that of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Palatial Lord Centaurea was extremely powerful. There were very few people in the mystic moon continent who could injure the palace master. I don't know either. Yunmu shook his head and said, all I know is that the Flower Palace has practically moved out in full force this time, and their objective is to find peerless geniuses that meet the requirements and bring them back to heal the palace master. Humph. If you don't tell the truth, be careful of your head rolling on the ground. Ningyu coldly snorted. Soon after, he swung the red demon sword in his hand and placed it on Yunmu's shoulder. Ningyu was well aware of Palatial Lord Centaurea's character. Using a peerless genius to heal. Ningyu would never believe it. Ningyu, don't waste your breath. Even though you're able to control us, the experts of the Flower Palace nearby the Grand Xia Kingdom will swarm over in a few hours. At that time, it'll be impossible for you to escape. Venerable Talisman Marshal said coldly with a vicious look in his eyes. Pa 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 pa. As soon as the Talisman Marshal Supremacy finished speaking, the Dark Emperor transformed into an afterimage and slapped a few times. You're about to die, yet you still dare to be so stubborn. We would have cut you into pieces before the experts of the Flower Palace arrived. The Dark Sovereign smiled evilly as he sized up the Talisman Marshal Supremacy and said sinisterly, I think your figure is not bad. Hehe, I believe the people of Tianqian City will be very happy to see your figure. Bah. Despicable, shameless villain. No, it's a shameless dog. The Talisman Marshal Supremacy was trembling with anger. She was a woman, and the Dark Emperor saying such words in front of her made her lungs explode with anger. I am shameless. The Dark Emperor pointed at his nose and said, what a joke, the two of you have been following behind us, and even wanted to use such a vicious pill like the heart-seizing pill to control Ningyu. I did not kill you first. Rape. Then kill, it is already benevolent. Despicable. The Talisman Marshal Venerable snorted coldly before turning around to look at Ningyu. Ningyu, I didn't expect you to be such a person. Tell me the truth. Ningyu's face was expressionless as he said indifferently. The truth is, in a few more hours, you will be completely annihilated, ha ha ha. Talisman Marshal Supremacy shouted like a madman. The Talisman Supremacy's reaction made Ningyu furrow his brows tightly. Logically speaking, if the Talisman Marshal Supremacy's and Yunmu's positions in the Flower Palace were ordinary, then the Talisman Marshal Supremacy would definitely not act like this. Since the Talisman Marshal Supremacy's reaction was very intense, and there were a few times when Yunmu wanted to speak, but stopped. That meant that the Talisman Marshal Supremacy and Yunmu's positions in the Flower Palace were definitely very high. Holy Maiden. Ningyu turned his head to look at the two middle-stage 7th grade puppets and the late-stage 7th grade puppet beside him. These two words emerged in his mind. The Flower Palace was filled with women. Moreover, the next palace master of the Flower Palace would be chosen from amongst the holy daughters. Every single holy maiden had a powerful elder by her side. The higher the ranking of the holy maiden in the Flower Palace, the stronger the elder by her side. Although the Talisman Marshal Supremacy's cultivation was only at the 5th grade mortal sovereign realm, the three puppets that she brought along were extremely heaven-defying. Yunmu is definitely the holy maiden of the Flower Palace, and her ranking amongst the holy maidens won't be too low. Ningyu fell into deep thought. Although he had a pretty good relationship with the palace master in his previous life, he was extremely displeased that the Talisman Marshal Supremacy wanted to control him in this life. Ningyu, it's not suitable to kill the two of them now. The Sword of Evil was extremely astute, and he knew that Ningyu intended to kill the Talisman Marshal Supremacy when he saw the change in Ningyu's expression. We don't know the status of the Talisman Marshal Supremacy and Yunmu in the Flower Palace. If it's really as they said and the experts of the Flower Palace arrive in a few hours, then we'll lose more than we gain if we kill them now. The Sword of Evil continued, in my opinion, we should control them first and see if we can kill them when the experts of the Flower Palace arrive. That makes sense. Actually, Ningyu had such a plan as well. However, Ningyu didn't show it. Now that the Sword of Evil mentioned it, he just happened to have a way out. Dark Emperor, I'll leave the two mid-stage 7th grade puppets to you. Ningyu pointed at the two puppets and said, no matter what, You must master how to use the puppets within an hour. That's easy. The problem is that they don't have energy. The Dark Emperor was slightly worried. Even if he controlled the puppets, it would be useless without energy. They would be no different from a pile of trash. Don't worry about energy. We can find it on the talisman martial supremacy. As he spoke, Ningyu's mind stirred and controlled talisman martial supremacy to take out all the essence crystals on him. Ningyu, you'll die a horrible death. The talisman martial supremacy cursed Ningyu as he took out the storage pouch on him and tossed it to the Dark Emperor. Slap. The Dark Emperor checked the amount of crystals within the storage pouch after he received it, and then he nodded and said, "It's barely enough. This should be enough for me to control the two puppets for a long time." Fut. Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, the talisman martial supremacy nearly vomited a mouthful of blood. There were 100,000 royal grade origin crystals in the storage pouch. So many crystals, and the Dark Emperor actually said that it was barely enough. That was simply unreasonable. The Dark Emperor didn't care about what the talisman martial supremacy was thinking. He happily left with the storage pouch and the two mid-stage 7th grade puppets, intending to find a quiet place to control the puppets. Sword of Evil, I'll leave the late-stage 7th grade puppet to you. Seeing the Dark Emperor leave, Ningyu said to the Sword of Evil, "Leave it for yourself." The Sword of Evil said, "The Blood Demon Ancestor, Shuntu Hao, and the Eastern War Sovereign are all initial stage 7th grade sovereigns. When they come over, I can only deal with one of them. The other two will definitely go after you and the Dark Emperor. The Dark Emperor has two mid-stage 7th grade puppets. They should be able to deal with Shuntu Hao. With your strength, you won't be able to deal with the Eastern War Sovereign without the help of the puppets. Furthermore, the Eastern War Sovereign will bring a large number of elixir puppets over. You have to be responsible for protecting the Ning family, and the burden on your shoulders is heavy." Chapter 1067. The Saintus Emperor Grade Origin Crystal. The Sword of Evil's eyes burned with passion when he heard the words Emperor Grade Origin Crystal. What's wrong? Ningyu was confused by the Sword of Evil's reaction. Although Emperor Grade Origin Crystals were precious, it shouldn't have caused such a huge reaction. "It's nothing." Taking a deep breath, the Sword of Evil said, "Ask the Talisman Supremacy how many Emperor Grade Origin Crystals she has." "There's no need to ask." Ningyu waved his hand and used the heart-reaping pill to order the Talisman Supremacy to hand over all the Emperor Grade Origin Crystals she had. Whoosh! The Talisman Supremacy's hands did not listen to her at all. She took out a storage bag and tossed it to Ningyu. After catching the storage bag, Ningyu sent a wisp of his perception into it. Ningyu was overjoyed at first, then his expression turned solemn. The change in Ningyu's expression completely affected the Sword of Evil. At first, the Sword of Evil was excited to see Ningyu. However, as Ningyu's expression turned solemn, the Sword of Evil's heart sank. Emperor Grade Origin Crystals were very helpful for the Sword of Evil to recover to his peak. The Sword of Evil was an early stage 7th grade human supreme. 10 Emperor Grade Origin Crystals could help him recover to mid-stage 7th grade in a short period of time, or even peak mid-stage 7th grade. If he had 20 Emperor Grade Origin Crystals, he could even restore his cultivation to the late 7th grade human supreme realm within an hour. Ningyu, how many Emperor Grade Origin Crystals are there? Even though the nefarious Sword Exalted was feeling conflicted, he still asked. Not too many, only 20 Emperor Grade Origin Crystals. Ningyu shook his head, slightly dissatisfied. Who? Hearing this, the Sword of Evil spat out a mouthful of turbid air. The burning look on his face became even more obvious. 20 Emperor Grade Origin Crystals were more than enough for him to recover to the late 7th grade Sovereign Realm. At his peak, the Sword of Evil was a peak 8th grade human supreme. Originally, the Sword of Evil thought that he would need at least a few years to restore his cultivation to its peak. Now, it seemed that Ningyu was his lucky star. According to the current situation, he would probably be able to recover his cultivation to the pinnacle 8th grade Sovereign Realm in less than a year. Ningyu, these crystals, after the ecstasy, the Sword of Evil calmed down. He wanted to say something but hesitated, feeling a little conflicted. 20 Emperor-grade origin crystals was not a small number. With so many Emperor-grade origin crystals, how could he ask Ningyu for them? Would Ningyu give them to him? Sword of Evil, I can't give you all of these 20 Emperor-grade origin crystals. I need to keep 2 to activate the late 7th grade puppet. How could Ningyu not know what the Sword of Evil was thinking? He took out 2 Emperor-grade origin crystals and threw them to the Sword of Evil together with his storage bag. Ningyu, words cannot express my gratitude. I. Blood Demon Ancestor, Shuntu Hao, leave it to me. As long as they dare to come to the Ning family, I will make sure that they will not be able to return. The Sword of Evil wanted to say some words of gratitude, but he swallowed them and said, with 18 Emperor-grade origin crystals, I have an 80% chance of recovering to the late 7th grade human supreme realm. Go and recover first, I will call you if there is anything. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that the Sword of Evil could leave first. Whoosh! The Sword of Evil did not waste time here. With Ningyu's approval, he immediately tore apart the void and disappeared. Earthshaker, your task is very difficult. You must be responsible for the safety of the Ning family and the metal-devouring demon lion. After a moment of silence, Ningyu took out an Emperor-grade origin crystal and said, I will leave this Emperor-grade origin crystal to you, but you must remember your mission. Don't worry, as long as I am alive, I will not let you down. The Earthshaker knew that the situation was very dangerous. He took the Emperor-grade origin crystal and disappeared with the 8-legged centipede. At this point, only Ningyu, the Talisman Supremacy, and Yunmu were left in this area. Cough, cough. After coughing twice, Ningyu continued, Talisman Supremacy, if I have guessed correctly, your position in the 100-flower palace is extremely high. At the very least, you should be an 80-flower elder. What? The Talisman Supremacy's expression changed drastically. She was shocked that Ningyu could say the words 80-flower elder. In the 100-flower palace, only the internal members would know about the ranking of elders. Elder Yi Hua was the lowest-ranked elder in the sect. After that, it was 10th flower elder, 20th flower elder, all the way to 100 flower elder. Even in the history of the 100-flower palace, the Talisman Supremacy could become an 80-flower elder with a cultivation of 5th grade mortal sovereign. Just who are you? How do you know about the internal ranking of the 100-flower palace? The Talisman Supremacy said coldly. Yunmu should be ranked in the top 3 amongst the holy maidens of the 100-flower palace. Without answering the Talisman Supremacy, Ningyu continued. Just who are you? Ningyu's understanding of the 100-flower palace made the Talisman Supremacy have a bad feeling in his heart. Speaking of which, I have some relationship with the 100-flower palace. Ningyu used the Great Deception art and continued, my master has a pretty good relationship with the palace master of the 100-flower palace, and he has told me many things about the 100-flower palace. Your master has a pretty good relationship with our palace master? The Talisman Supremacy was briefly stunned before he revealed shock on his face and said in disbelief, could it be that your master is? Impossible. The palace master said that her friend has already fallen. With your current age, it's impossible for you to be that person's disciple. Stop guessing. My master is still alive, and you won't be able to guess who he is in your entire lifetime. Ningyu continued, my master has a good understanding of the 100-flower palace's master. Even if she's heavily injured, she will definitely not find a peerless genius to be her cauldron to recover. Stop wasting time. With my master's relationship with the palace master, he will definitely think of a way to head to the 100-flower palace if the palace master encounters any mishaps. Right. As he spoke until here, Ningyu briefly paused before he continued, my master's cultivation isn't at the mortal sovereign realm. Hiss. The Talisman Supremacy inhaled a mouthful of chilled air as his face was dark and indeterminate. He was having an intense battle in his heart. To say it or not to say it, that was the question. Roughly 5 minutes later, the Talisman Supremacy said in a solemn voice, Ningyu, I'll tell you the truth. 10 years ago, a mysterious expert suddenly barged into the palace master's chamber and took control of her. Although that expert was injured, He was extremely powerful. Back then, the princess was an Earth sovereign realm, but she wasn't the opponent of that expert. Aside from the palace master, there are still many grand elders in the 100-flower palace. Ningyu said in doubt, "There's no reason for those grand elders to not make an appearance. Sigh, don't mention it." 3 months after the palace master was taken control, we received news that all the grand elders of the 100-flower palace were killed. Not a single one was left. Chapter 1068. I don't mind. Not a single one left. Hearing this, Ningyu was stunned at first, then he revealed a look of disbelief. The 100 Flowers Palace was an existence comparable to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. The Supreme Elders inside were extremely powerful, and even the weakest among them was a high-level human sovereign. If even they were killed without anyone noticing, one could imagine how powerful that mysterious person was. That's right. Not a single one is left. The Talisman Supremacy nodded and said, "From then on, the Palace Lord gave us a standard and asked us to find a suitable genius martial artist in the Mystic Moon continent according to that standard. Whoever finds a genius martial artist who meets the standard first will be the next Palace Lord." Fool. Ningyu's face instantly turned gloomy when he heard the talisman exalted, and he berated. Where there were people, there would be Jianghu. The talisman martial exalt had actually stupidly exposed that they'd found a genius martial artist that fulfilled the criteria. Wasn't this clearly telling the other experts of the Flower Palace that they could come over and seize him? In front of the temptation of the next Palace Lord, no one could remain calm. Roughly how long will the other experts of the 100 Flowers Palace take to arrive? Ningyu glared at Venerable Talisman Marshal and said in a deep voice. The slowest is 3 to 4 hours, the fastest. The Talisman Martial Supremacy was not a fool. He quickly realized the severity of the problem. Indeed, as Ningyu had said, where there were people, there would be Jianghu. This wasn't the Flower Palace, and there were no restrictions here. Whoever was stronger and had the hardest fist was the one who had the final say. Moreover, it was the temptation of becoming the next Palace Lord. Who could remain indifferent? Whoosh. Whoosh. However, before Talisman Marshal Venerable finished speaking, his expression changed drastically, and he looked at the entrance of the training field. At the entrance of the martial arts practice field, 2 young women dressed in purple slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. It's you. Venerable Talisman Marshal was obviously very familiar with the 2 purple-clad women. Ha, Talisman Marshal Supremacy, you are really stupid, so stupid that it's adorable. The 2 young women instantly stood before Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy, and the one on the left smiled. We just happened to pass by the profound Sky City and received your message, so we immediately came together. If I have guessed correctly, this young cultivator should be the one that you've mentioned, the peerless genius. If I have guessed correctly, this young cultivator should be the one that fits the criteria. The 2 of them were only ranked in the top 10 in the 100 Flowers Palace, and the elders that followed them were at most pinnacle 5th grade sovereign realm cultivators. Venerable Talisman Marshal didn't think that Ningyu wouldn't be able to deal with 2 pinnacle grade 5 human sovereigns. 7. How, and how, the 2, Yang, 1, Tian, Marshal, the Tian, yelled. The young woman on the left laughed. If you can successfully bring this brat back to the 100 Flowers Palace, wouldn't it be disastrous? That's right. Yunmu is only a 3rd grade human sovereign. If he becomes the palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace, wouldn't the 100 Flowers Palace fall? The other young woman said sinisterly. Zhao Ya, Wu Li, although I'm only a 3rd grade human sovereign, I'm more than enough to deal with 2 2nd grade human sovereigns. Yunmu said coldly. Since that's the case, then let's give it a try. The 2 young ladies called Zhao Ya and Wu Li looked at each other before they rose from the ground and charged towards Yunmu. Rumble. In the sky, Yunmu and Zhao Ya were fighting. Zhao Ya and Wu Li were only 2nd grade human sovereigns, while Yunmu was a 3rd grade human sovereign. Even if Zhao Ya and Wu Li joined hands, they wouldn't be able to contend against Yunmu. Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy, there will be a large number of experts from the 100 Flowers Palace coming later. Should we kill them or leave them alive? Ningyu's face was ugly. What did the 100 Flowers Palace treat the Ning family as? They disregarded his existence and openly fought here. After all, we're all from the 100 Flowers Palace. Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy clenched his teeth. What a woman's view. Ningyu coldly snorted as he interrupted Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy's words. Thereafter, he soared into the sky and his body instantly fused with the void. In the next moment, Ningyu appeared beside Zhao Yue and Wu Li. He waved his hands, bringing along an extremely violent gale of origin energy as he threw it towards Zhao Yue and Wu Li. The might of Ningyu's 2 punches had reached the pinnacle. Even an ordinary 5th-grade human sovereign might not be able to withstand it, not to mention Zhao Yue and Wu Li, who were only 2nd-grade human sovereigns. Rustle. Seeing Ningyu's appearance, Yunmu's figure flashed and he instantly left. Since Ningyu had made a move, then Zhao Yue and Wu Li wouldn't be able to escape death. Brat, you're too daring. You even dare to kill the holy maiden of the 100 Flowers Palace. You must be tired of living. Crack. However, before Ningyu's fist could land on Zhao Yue and Wu Li, the space beside him suddenly split apart. A roar resounded from the void. Shortly after, 2 silhouettes threw a punch out from the left and right. Pinnacle 5th-grade human sovereign. Ningyu's perception was extremely powerful. In fact, when he made his move, he already knew that there were 2 silhouettes hidden in the void. However, he did not show it. Ningyu was confident that he could deal with 2 pinnacle 5th-grade human sovereigns. Universe Palm. With a low shout, Ningyu waved his hands repeatedly, and 2 palm prints left his palms in a row. Not good. When the 2 pinnacle 5th-grade human sovereigns saw the palm prints that were flying towards them, their faces drastically changed as they immediately retracted their fists and retreated. Boom. Boom. However, it was already too late for them to retreat. After Ningyu raised his soul energy to middle 7th-grade sovereign realm, the might of his universe palm had increased by a lot. Not to mention pinnacle 5th-grade human sovereigns, even initial 6th-grade human sovereigns might not be able to withstand Ningyu's 2 palms. Fart. Fart. A crisp sound rang out as the 2 pinnacle 5th-grade human sovereigns spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their bodies were like broken kites as they fell into the distance. Swish. Swish. Fortunately, Zhao Yue and Wu Li reacted quickly and caught the 2 pinnacle 5th-grade human sovereigns. Otherwise, the fall would be enough to turn them into idiots. Let's go. Since Zhao Yue and Wu Li could become the saintess of the 100 Flowers Palace, they weren't stupid. They knew that there was no point in staying here, so they might as well leave now. Where do you think you're going? Letting a tiger return to the mountain would only lead to endless troubles. Ningyu understood this logic. Slash. In the next instant, he drew out the red demon sword and slashed out several sword rays. Whoosh. Countless sword rays flew towards Zhao Yue and Wu Li from all directions. Almost instantly, Zhao Yue and Wu Li were drowned by the sword rays. Talisman Supremacy, you wouldn't mind me getting rid of these people for you, right? Chapter 1069. Recovering I don't mind, but Venerable Talisman Marshal looked at Zhao Yue and the rest, who were engulfed by the sword radiance array. But what? Ningyu frowned, vaguely feeling that something was amiss. But in 2 hours, there will be 3 6th-grade human sovereigns, 2 middle-grade 7th-grade human sovereigns, and even 1 late-grade 7th-grade human sovereign. Venerable Talisman Marshal clenched his teeth. Are they elders of the 100 Flowers Palace? Ningyu asked without batting an eyelid. Although Ningyu did not show it on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. 2 hours later, there were 3 7th-grade human sovereigns, and one of them was late-grade 7th-grade human sovereigns. Such a lineup could only be described as luxurious. There were wolves in front and tigers behind. There was nowhere to retreat. They had no choice but to fight. Ningyu could not leave, nor could he leave. Once he left, Shen Tu Hao and the Blood Demon Ancestor would definitely kill their way into the Ning family and slaughter them. They are all elders of the 100 Flowers Palace, and every one of them is extremely powerful. Venerable Talisman Marshal said solemnly. Let's recuperate here and deal with whatever comes our way. Ningyu said solemnly. Let's go. That late-grade 7th grade human sovereign is especially powerful. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to stay, the Talisman Venerable immediately said, it said that when she was in the initial phase 7th grade sovereign realm, she had already killed a late phase 7th grade sovereign realm cultivator. Now that she has advanced to the late phase 7th grade sovereign realm, you can imagine that she can even confront a pinnacle 7th grade sovereign. Crack crack crack. Just then, the sword radiance array in the distance had ended. Zhao Ya and the rest, who were within the array, were all minced into mincemeat by the powerful force. Recuperate here and prepare for battle in 2 hours. Ningyu didn't pay any further attention to the talisman supremacy, and he found a quiet place to start devouring and refining the Emperor-grade origin crystal. Although he only had 2 hours, which was not enough to raise his cultivation to the 2nd-grade sovereign realm, with the help of the Emperor-grade origin crystal, Ningyu could still raise his strength by a small level. Aunt Yoon, will there really be so many experts from the Flower Palace coming over 2 hours from now? Yunmu asked hesitantly after Ningyu left. Would I lie to you? Whether we're able to return to the Flower Palace alive this time is entirely dependent on Ningyu, said the talisman Exalt in a low voice. But, didn't the Palace Lord already send experts over? Yunmu was still a little confused. They had already sent the news back to the Centauria Palace, and the Centauria Palace Mistress had sent a few experts over to have them stabilize Ningyu first. The people sent by the Palace Lord will take at least 3 days to get here. Without Ningyu's help in these 3 days, we would have long been dead. A smear of coldness flashed in Venerable Talisman Marshal's eyes as he continued, I finally understand now. The Palace Lord has already been controlled by that expert, and the people she sends over will definitely kill us. What we need to do now is to follow closely behind Ningyu. Sigh. Thereafter, Venerable Talisman Marshal sighed, I never thought that we would end up like this. Aunt Yoon, about the old prophet. Yunmu opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she did not dare to speak after being glared at by Venerable Talisman Marshal. Hurry up and rest. We'll be fighting in 2 hours from now. Venerable Talisman Marshal said coldly. The old prophet is still the old prophet. Ningyu clearly heard Yunmu's last sentence. Yunmu was indeed a member of the Flower Palace. This was something that Ningyu could be 100% sure of. However, whether or not Venerable Talisman Marshal was a member of the Flower Palace, and what her true identity was, Ningyu still had not completely figured it out until now. Although he used the heart-reaping pill to control Venerable Talisman Marshal, Ningyu did not dare to do anything overboard. In Venerable Talisman Marshal's body, Ningyu discovered a faintly discernible and terrifying energy. Once that terrifying energy erupted, the entire Ning family would be instantly razed to the ground. How terrifying. There's still 2 hours. No matter what, I have to improve my strength a little more. Ningyu knew what he had to face next. He took a deep breath, then sat down cross-legged and started circulating the spirit transformation technique to slowly refine the arch-grade origin crystal. Kai Kai. Threads of vital energy surged out from the arch-grade origin crystal and slowly entered Ningyu's body. In the enormous martial arts field, 3 places were especially eye-catching. Ningyu was refining the arch-grade origin crystal. The Dark Emperor was refining the 7th-grade intermediate puppets with all his might. Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yunmu were circulating their techniques to slowly recover. Everything seemed to be progressing in an orderly manner. Drip, drip. Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Swoosh. Just as the time passed, a figure emerged from the void. This figure was none other than the Sword of Evil. You've recovered to the 7th grade advanced stage human supremacy. Feeling the aura emanating from the Sword of Evil, Ningyu's eyes widened in shock. It's all thanks to the arch-grade origin crystal you gave me. The Sword of Evil knew that without the 18 arch-grade origin crystals Ningyu gave him, he would definitely not have been able to recover to the 7th grade advanced stage human supremacy within an hour. Now that his cultivation had recovered to the 7th grade advanced stage human supremacy, The Sword of Evil's strength had also improved by leaps and bounds. Now that he was up against Shuntu Hao and the Blood Demon Ancestor, the Sword of Evil was confident that he could take on both of them at once, and even kill them. Get ready, there's going to be a huge battle later. After a slight hesitation, Ningyu's consciousness entered the storage ring and looked at the sapling. It was only the size of half a fist. There was a Shenyang pill hanging on the sapling, but it was rather small. It was an unformed Shenyang pill. Taking out the Shenyang pill, Ningyu threw it to the Sword of Evil and said, "Take this half of the Shenyang pill. You're the main fighting force. You can't drop the ball at the crucial moment." Shenyang pill. Looking at the half of the Shenyang pill in his hand, the Sword of Evil's eyes revealed a fervent look. The Shenyang pill was something even more awesome than the Emperor-grade origin crystal. With a complete Shenyang pill, the Sword of Evil was confident that he could recover his cultivation to the 7th grade pinnacle stage human supremacy within a few hours. But at the same time, the Sword of Evil was also very clear. There would be a huge battle in an hour. It was too unrealistic for him to recover at this time. Drip. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, another hour had passed. Ha ha ha. I've finally completely controlled these two puppets. Now, they only listen to my orders. Without even thinking, Ningyu knew that the person laughing was the Dark Emperor. To think that the Dark Emperor could still laugh after taking 2 hours to control the puppets. Ningyu, you haven't gone to control the 7th grade advanced stage puppet yet? The Dark Emperor came to Ningyu's side and looked at the 7th grade advanced stage puppet beside Ningyu. There was a hint of displeasure in his tone. Chapter 1070. Not a match, it's fine. It's just a puppet. I can control it with a wave of my hand. Ningyu knew that the Dark Emperor was doing this for his own good. He first gave the Dark Emperor a smile before he separated a portion of his soul force and sent it into the puppet. What's there to be proud about? I don't believe that you can. I'll control it with a wave of your hand. The Dark Emperor coldly snorted. However, before the Dark Emperor could finish his cold snort, he cursed out loud. Boom. Boom. The 7th grade late-stage supreme martial artist puppet stepped on the ground and walked towards the Dark Emperor. Gulp. Looking at the puppet walking in his direction, the Dark Emperor couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Isn't this a little too ked up? 1 second. No, it should be 0. 1 seconds for Ningyu to control an late 7th grade sovereign realm puppet. Who would believe it if it was spread out? Dark Emperor, I told you not to worry, but you didn't believe me. Ningyu shrugged his shoulders. There's going to be a huge battle soon. Make your preparations, or you might be in danger. How can I be in danger? With 2 middle 7th grade sovereign realm puppets, I have nothing to fear even if a late 7th grade sovereign realm expert comes. The Dark Emperor twitched his lips. Is that so? As the Dark Emperor spoke, a faint voice slowly resounded. Crack. Shortly after, the space above the training ground was torn apart as a group of people appeared and descended onto the training ground. There were roughly a dozen of them, with the 6 at the front possessing extremely high cultivations. 3 6th grade sovereigns, 2 middle 7th grade sovereigns, and 1 late 7th grade sovereign. As the Talisman Venerable had expected, these experts had just arrived. Talisman Venerable, you've really embarrassed the 100 Flowers Palace. The Palace Master personally gave you puppets, and you actually gave them to someone else. The leading late phase 7th grade human sovereign raised the corner of his lips. There are 2 main reasons why we're here today. Firstly, to take away the peerless geniuses that fit the criteria. As for the second, at this point, the late-stage 7th grade supreme martial artist changed the topic and said coldly, I will kill you and Yun Mu while I'm at it. Exalt you, the Flower Palace has clearly stipulated that disciples of the same sect are prohibited from killing each other. Could it be that you intend to violate the rules of the sect? Talisman Martial Supremacy said coldly. Sect rules? Ha ha ha. Venerable you was stunned at first, then he smiled evilly and said, if a random sect rule can bind me, how can I be the Palace Lord? Palace Lord personally instructed that the next sect master can only be the Saintess. How dare you make such a decision on your own? Supremacy Talisman Marshal was so angry that his teeth were about to shatter. In the Flower Palace, she'd always been firmly suppressed by Exalt You. Who would have thought that after leaving the 100 Flowers Palace, Venerable You would still be so domineering? Your name is Honorable You. At this moment, Ningyu took a step forward and said doubtfully, fish have always swum in the water. Now that you're on land, you probably won't be able to cause much trouble. Grade 1 Human Supreme Realm. Not bad at all. Venerable You shifted his attention to Ningyu. If I bring you back to the Flower Palace, that mysterious expert might be happy and directly reward me with a few elixirs, allowing me to smoothly advance to the 8th grade Human Supreme Realm. If you want to bring me back to the 100 Flowers Palace, we'll have to see if you have the ability. Ningyu's tone was emotionless as he said indifferently, you're only a late-stage 7th grade Human Supreme Realm. I have a late-stage 7th grade puppet and a late-stage 7th grade Sword of Evil. What do you have to fight against me? It's good to be confident, but sometimes, overconfidence will turn into stupidity. As the word stupidity fell, Venerable Yu's figure instantly charged out and charged towards Ningyu at a shocking speed. At the same time, Venerable Yu unleashed all his aura and pressed towards Ningyu. Venerable Yu didn't want to kill Ningyu. She just wanted to teach Ningyu a lesson. She wanted to let Ningyu know that he had to keep his voice down when speaking to some people. Go. With a thought, Ningyu hurriedly controlled the puppet to fight Venerable Yu. Rumble. Venerable Yu and the puppet came into close contact. After one move, both of them took a few steps back. Judging from the distance they retreated, the Venerable One and the puppet were about the same. Neither of them had the upper hand. Ningyu, do you think that's all there is to my strength? Venerable Yu seemed to know what Ningyu was thinking. He smiled and said, you can send your senses into the puppet's body to check. Swoosh. Hearing that, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He knew that things were bad. Judging from Venerable Yu's words, the situation seemed to be a little special. With a thought, Ningyu split a bit of his senses and carefully entered the puppet's body. F***ck this crystal. The moment Ningyu's senses entered the puppet's body, he couldn't help but curse out loud. Whoosh. Suddenly, the puppet fell apart from the inside out. This change was clearly out of everyone's expectations. Venerable Talisman Marshal was even more dumbfounded on the spot, his face filled with confusion. This late-stage 7th grade supremacy puppet was her trump card. No matter how bad it was, it shouldn't have been shattered by Venerable Yu in one move. Venerable Talisman Marshal, it's not just your puppet. I've even tampered with the other two. Everyone's reaction made Venerable Yu very satisfied. She pointed at the two puppets in front of the Dark Emperor and said sinisterly, as long as I want to, I can turn those two puppets into dust at any time. Impossible. Venerable Talisman Marshal was about to jump up. The three puppets were all her trump cards, and she had personally picked them out from the treasury of the 100 Flower Palace. They were all tampered with by Venerable Yu. If that was really the case, didn't that mean that Venerable Yu had already obtained control over the treasury? Venerable Talisman Marshal's expression became extremely unsightly when he thought up to here. Whoosh. Venerable Yu didn't disappoint Venerable Talisman Marshal. She flicked out two cold rays of light, and each of them shot towards a puppet. As soon as the cold rays entered the bodies of the puppets, the two mid-stage 7th grade supremacy puppets shattered and turned into nothingness. Ningyu, you're the person I'm looking for this time. I won't kill you. I'll only bring you to the 100 Flower Palace and hand you over to a mysterious expert to deal with. Venerable Yu looked around, and her gaze first stopped on Ningyu for a few seconds before stopping on Venerable Talisman Marshal. She said, Venerable Talisman Marshal, you won't be so lucky. Let me see what qualifications you have to become an elder of the 80 Flower Palace. What qualifications I have has nothing to do with you. In short, it won't be so easy for you to kill me today. Venerable Talisman Marshal's expression was gloomy. Could it be that you think these small fries can stop me? Chapter 1071. Venerable Yu, how would I know if I don't try? With a flick of his wrist, Venerable Sword Evil took out his Emperor-grade low-grade flying sword and said in a deep voice, "There are quite a few late 7th grade human sovereigns that died in my hands. After today, there will be another one." Arrogant. Venerable Yu's eyes turned cold. He rose from the ground and dashed out. Rumble. The Sword of Evil and Venerable Yu fought on the martial arts practice field. When the Sword of Evil and Venerable Yu fought, Ning Yu and the rest did not make a move and stood on the spot. However, Ning Yu was extremely worried in his heart. The Sword of Evil and Venerable Yu's strength should be on par. It was impossible to determine a victor in a short period of time. This situation was clearly disadvantageous to Ning Yu. On Venerable Yu's side, there were still 2 middle phase 7th grade sovereigns and 3 6th grade sovereigns. This fighting strength was sufficient to contend with a late phase 7th grade sovereign. Talisman Venerable, what other trump cards do you have? Take them all out. Now that things had come to this, Ning Yu knew that he could only rely on the Talisman Venerable. If the Talisman Venerable had a trump card, then everyone would survive together. If he didn't, then everyone would die together. All right. After a brief pondering, the Talisman Venerable gritted his teeth. "But I need your help." "What do you need my help with?" Ning Yu was slightly stunned as he asked in puzzlement. "Rustle." The Talisman Venerable did not reply to Ning Yu's words. Instead, she took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle did not contain elixirs, but a black medicinal liquid. "This is the Berserk liquid. After consuming it, your strength will rise by 3 levels for a short period of time," the Talisman Venerable said in a ruthless voice. "You're currently a 1st grade sovereign. After consuming this Berserk liquid, your cultivation will reach 4th grade sovereign for an hour. What are the side effects?" Ning Yu knew that such a heaven-defying elixir would definitely have a lot of side effects. There are side effects, and they are very serious. Talisman Martial Supremacy did not want to hide it from Ning Yu. She said, "In an hour, your entire body will go limp and powerless. If there's no large amounts of Yuan Qi injected into your body, you might even be paralyzed for the rest of your life." "How much is a large amount of energy?" Ning Yu asked. "Don't worry about that for now. What you need to worry about is how to endure the period of time when you swallow the Berserk liquid." The Talisman Martial Venerable One waved his hand and said, "As for an hour later, I'll provide you with primordial Qi to ensure your safety. My body's constitution is better, so I'm not afraid. Give me the Berserk fluid." Ning Yu didn't think and directly stretched out his right hand. Ning Yu's direct action shocked the Talisman Martial Supremacy. "Aren't you afraid that I'll scheme against you?" Talisman Martial Supremacy asked hesitantly. "Hihi, you still have the heart-seizing pill in your body. Even if you schemed against me, we are still even." With a faint smile, Ning Yu directly took the jade bottle from the Talisman Supremacy's hand and poured the Berserk liquid inside into his mouth. Hiss. Just as the Berserk liquid entered his stomach, Ning Yu's eyes widened. A tearing pain came from every part of his body. This kind of pain was even more horrifying than 10,000 ants biting his heart. Drip, drip. On Ning Yu's forehead, bean-sized beads of sweat continuously dripped. "If you can't endure it, just say it. I have a way to help you resolve it." The Talisman Martial Supremacy swallowed the Berserk liquid once in the past. That kind of sour and refreshing taste, she knew. Furthermore, the Berserk liquid that Ning Yu swallowed this time was several times more than what she swallowed previously. "Aunt Yun, so much Berserk liquid, how can Ning Yu possibly endure it?" Seeing Ning Yu's pained appearance, Yun Mu hurriedly said, "If Ning Yu doesn't go and endure it, could it be that you're going to endure it?" The Talisman Martial Supremacy glared at Yun Mu fiercely and said coldly, "Supremacy, you brought so many experts over, clearly wanting to put us to death. If Ning Yu can't even endure this little bit of pain, then all of us have to die today." Swish. Right at this moment, Ning Yu suddenly calmed down, as if everything had returned to normal. Failed. Ning Yu's actions caused the Talisman Martial Supremacy to be a little dumbfounded. There's no reason for it to fail. Could it be that I took the wrong Berserk liquid? Thinking of this, the Talisman Martial Supremacy hurriedly checked the remaining jade bottles on him. After a while, The talisman martial supremacy revealed a doubtful expression and muttered, "This doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense at all. What I took out was the berserk liquid, it's definitely not wrong." Boom. The talisman martial supremacy was still confused. At the side, a terrifying aura soared into the sky from Ningyu's body. Whoosh. The aura that surged out from Ningyu's body attracted the gazes of the surrounding people. Grade 4 human sovereign. Sensing the powerful aura emanating from Ningyu's body, even the talisman martial supremacy who was prepared could not help but be stunned. He knew that Ningyu had only used the berserk liquid to raise his cultivation to grade 4 human sovereign for a short period of time. However, the talisman martial supremacy felt that the aura emanating from Ningyu was much stronger than that of a grade 4 human sovereign. Damn it. What are you guys waiting for? Are you guys waiting to go home and eat? Hurry up and kill the talisman martial supremacy and Yunmu, and capture Ningyu. When the aura from Ningyu's body surged out, Venerable Yu could not help but look over. When Venerable Yu saw that the experts she brought with her were all standing on the spot and watching the show, she instantly raged. "Venerable Yu, you dare to be distracted while fighting me? Eat my fists." Venerable Swordsman's momentary distraction gave Venerable Swordsman the opportunity to throw a punch that contained a terrifying shockwave towards her head. Not good. Venerable Yu was, after all, a late grade 7 human sovereign. She immediately reacted and turned around to deal with the Sword of Evil. Go. After being reprimanded by Venerable Yu, the experts of the 100 Flowers Palace seemed to have been enlightened as they roared and charged towards Ningyu. Slash. Ningyu took a step forward and the vigorous energy in his consciousness wrapped around the red demon sword as he slashed out a sword light. PSSST. PSSST. Even the air in the path of the sword light avoided it. Crack. Facing the incoming sword light, the two middle-grade 7 human sovereigns of the 100 Flowers Palace threw out a palm print and attacked the palm print that Ningyu had slashed out. Under the powerful pressure of the two palm prints, the sword light that Ningyu had slashed out shattered. Rustle. 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 The moment Ningyu slashed out a sword light, the remaining 3 6th grade sovereigns of the 100 Flowers Palace immediately charged out. The 3 6th grade sovereigns had a clear target. They were the Dark Emperor, the Talisman Supremacy, and Yunmu. Ningyu's face drastically changed as he hurriedly waved the red demon sword and slashed out several sword lights. Yunmu was only a grade 3 human sovereign, so he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand a powerful attack from a grade 6 human sovereign. The Dark Emperor was a grade 2 human sovereign. Although he was stronger than Yunmu, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand a few moves from a grade 6 human sovereign. The one that Ningyu was most at ease with was the Talisman Supremacy. The Talisman Supremacy was even stronger than the Dark Emperor and Yunmu combined. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.